All right, thank you all very much for coming. If you'd like to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
There have been a couple of minor changes to the agenda. Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Did we hear from Paul? Paul has the.
Paul is not able to make it. It'll work. What? He had, someone else wasn't able to cover some appointments.
Gotcha.
So he ended up not
Whose property is it? I like to read anyway. I just approved that, but I don't know.
Clark and Lewis.
Clark and Lee.
Oh, it's Clark Lewis.
All right, this is the public comment section of our meeting. If there's something that those in the audience would like to address the council, this would be your perfect time.
You guys are rock, paper, scissors.
Man,
Yeah, Mary wants to
Mary
chat.
would like to. So let's see, phone. Oh, sorry, Mary, 1 second. Okay. If you could just make me co-host.
but she's not gonna be on there. It's just voice, right? She's on the phone.
Yeah, Mary.
Sonos or whatever.
You should be able to talk, Mary. Yeah.
Go ahead, Mary.
Hello.
Okay, thank you very much. Mary Rapar from Home Valley. Two things. First, I would like the City Council to know that the Gorge Commission's Vital Signs Indicators project is seemingly on track to proceed. And Lisa Nass Cook is heading that from the Gorge Commission staff. And it is a very critical project. They're going to be establishing baselines, basically cumulative impacts from these vital indicators. And this is for air, water, land, agriculture. We worked on this project in 2007 for about 18 months as a community advisory team with a technical advisory team. And now that this project is being implemented, I think it would be good for communities such as Stevenson, North Bonneville, and other areas to become involved, because these projects are going to let you know how your critical resources are handling climate change, and what critical resources or how critical resources are doing in our area. I think it'd be a great idea to have her give you all an update about this project, because it will be regional and it will be employing a lot of information from a variety of partners, agencies, groups, and entities. So I think it's a great project for our area, and the impacts of climate change are here, and we need to know how our resources and wildlife and everything else is doing, and the indicators are going part of that project, and hopefully it'll help everyone to see how we're doing and how we can become more resilient. Second, I attended the Southern Gifford Pinchot a collaborative this afternoon. I'm a member of it, and we saw the film The Burning, or The West is Burning. And, we were there in 2017 with our Eagle Creek fire. The talk came up, a discussion came up about forming a local group or starting to talk about how how we in our community are going to handle fires, and because it's not if, it's when another one will come, and we want to be more prepared. And I think that might be a good group that the city council might want to become a member of, or at least stay tuned to, because this group is talking about stewardship of the forest and how to thin and how to manage the forest better so that we don't have big critical fires. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Anyone else? All right, looks like it's time for our guest.
So Kathy Fitzpatrick is the Make Columbia Economic Development Mobility Manager. And Kathy, will you be able to share your presentation, or do you want me to share it up here on the screen?
No, I can share it. Let's see.
Okay.
Do I have, oh, I need to have the sharing enabled for me.
There you go. Try it again.
Okay. Great. Let's see. I don't know which one it is. Oh, it must be this. Okay. There we go. Now, let me just get it started. There we go. Great. All right. So yes, I am the Regional Mobility Manager, which means a lot of things. I help to coordinate the biggest part of my job is helping to coordinate public transportation in the area in our bi-state region. And the MCAD bi-state region is Klickitat and Skamania counties, Hood River, Wasco, and Sherman counties. And public transportation has seen a real transformation over the last few years. I don't know if any of you have noticed, but the expansion has been really amazing, and the number of people riding the bus as well. Not talking about the COVID year, but just we've had a lot of full buses and a lot of demand for even more service. So really exciting times for us. And as these services have been increasing, we've really seen a lot of different sectors, both public and private sectors, asking us, well, where's the regional plan? You're coordinating well. We've got the Gorge TransLink Alliance, which is a partnership of the 5 counties and their public transportation providers. We've been working together since 2010. But where's that regional plan? And so a couple of years ago, MCAD wrote a grant, and we got both ODOT and WSDOT monies to invest in a regional transit strategy. So Leanna has been a big part of that. She's a key stakeholder in that. We have a lot of the participants are coming, like I said, from both public and private sector, county commissioners, city planners, public works. We have businesses in situ has been attending, and healthcare providers. A lot of healthcare and human service organizations are very interested in public transportation. So our first phase is just wrapping up right now with the foundation's memo. Leanna, were you able to get that out to City Council?
It was in the packet when I distributed it
Wonderful.
on Tuesday.
Great. So I hope you all had a chance to flip through it, and or flip through it now as I'm talking. But it really talks about the amazing work that the working group, which was everyone from U.S. Forest Service to state parks, both Oregon and Washington state parks, to public health and safety, to the Columbia Gorge Community College, and of course cities, counties, all of our local leadership. So a real diverse partnership, and really putting together a collective vision and goals for a regional transportation, public transportation system. So we built our vision and goals on the existing plans. You all have transportation plans. All of those plans either touch on public transportation or they have, as in the Human Services Transportation Plan for Southwest Washington region, includes public, it has a real focus on public transportation for Skamania County. So we worked on with the existing plans as our foundation, and then built goals and vision. And so I wanted to share with you our vision. It's highlighted in the memo that you can see along with the goals, but just really wanted to highlight that. And there you see of course, your Skamania County Transit bus moving along SR 14 there in the photo. Beautiful shot. Public transit supports thriving Columbia River Gorge communities by providing access to critical services, higher education, jobs, and outdoor recreation while protecting the natural wonders of the gorge. And I think when we're focused on outdoor recreation, there was a lot of talk about equal access to recreation, not just rich people being able to afford the time and energy to get to the trailheads, but all of our residents being able to enjoy the place that they live. And then also looking at mitigating the impacts of the large numbers of visitors that we are seeing increasing every year. So trying to mitigate those impacts. And as you know from your own Dog Mountain Shuttle, when we work with partners like the U.S. Forest Service and Skamania County first responders and sheriff department, we can really accomplish a lot to really mitigate that congestion and those issues. I forgot about this. Yeah, a little drama there. So these are the new services that I've been talking about. The newest service to come online, which is so exciting, is your own Skamania County Transit, which you can see there. I'll put my cursor across. So you will have a connection for the first time to Klickitat County. So exciting. So this section here between Carson and Bingen will be probably on the road this fall. Those contracts are Sophie Miller, your wonderful director there at the Senior Services, Skamania County Senior Services, was able to get a grant to provide that service. And you will also be connected across the Bridge of the Gods. So you will be connected from Stevenson, the city of Stevenson, across to Cascade Locks. So that'll be a Monday through Friday service, and we're really excited for that. So so as you can look, we will really be connected. I mean, the ability, let's say, for instance, for somebody who lives at the Wyeth and Lou site near Cascade Locks to be able to get to Indian Health Services in Yakima County is just a couple of bus rides away. So, and then for your own residents, that connectivity to Portland and that quick connection to Portland, I think is really going to be a wonderful thing, because getting to OHSU, getting to the VA in Portland, that'll be a really quick bus ride away. The other thing is that it's not going to, let's see. I did want to talk about CAT's new service, which is also connecting. They've just put this online. I think the schedules will come out tomorrow. This is a sneak peek, but they're going to be offering Monday through Friday service across the bridge. And I think this will be to get the service started until Skamania County Transit can take over. So that's pretty exciting too. So getting our residents and visitors across the bridge one way or another. So whoever it is that's providing that service, whether it's public or private, we're working also with private operators. So it's very much a coordinated effort. So yes, so this is a new pass that just launched on July 1st. And this is something that our residents in the Gorge have been asking for a very long time. Organizations, residents, businesses, and we were finally able to put it together. So we've got the buses rolling on the road, and now we can get people on the bus easier than ever. So the Gorge Pass serves all of those services that you just saw on the map, and they and you can access you can purchase and access the pass with your smartphone, or you can just purchase a hard pass at any of the offices in any of the counties. And for $30, you can ride, you can have unlimited rides until the end of this year. Then we'll be offering another annual pass for 2022. Of course, we'll keep this going. And we're not sure if we're going to be upping the price a little bit. I've heard some numbers bounced around, but it'll definitely be less than $60. So for our residents who regularly travel to Portland, this is really going to be a game changer. Or need to get to the community college in the Dalles. This is really going to be wonderful for them. They don't have to worry about whether they have to give up their whether they can't pay for their college tuition because they have to purchase a car. So these are the choices some of our residents are facing, and with this pass, we can really get them the access and the mobility that they need to access jobs, higher education, medical services, shopping, social activities, and of course, outdoor recreation. So tools. How do you figure out how, the schedules and the buses and where they're going and when they're going? So this is a snapshot of gorgetranslink.com website. There's an interactive map. This is the homepage. There's a trip planner. You just put your starting location in, destination, and it tell you, which bus is leaving when, where. And then once you press on, like for instance, if you would press on the Carson, now this map doesn't yet reflect the new Carson to Bingen route or across the bridge. That we won't have that activated until those services are actually on the road. But let's say we clicked on the Stevenson to Vancouver route. What do we see? Oh, so each of those little bus stops, if you click on them, the name of the bus stop will come up and it'll tell you where it is. And I chose the Friday only route because there's right now there are more services on Fridays, but there's also a Monday through Thursday Vancouver, Carson, and Stevenson schedule as well. So so lots of tools for riders to figure out how to use the bus. And then also on that website, I just thought I'd point out something fun. If y'all haven't seen the Sasquatch sighting in Skamania County, which features Skamania County Transit, your high school mascot and the cheerleading squad, and of course your sheriff. You definitely mosey on over to gorgetranslink.com and look up under the More tab. There's the videos and lots of fun videos. Also Gorge Roller Derby on the bus. We got all sorts of fun videos for you there. So it's not just bus schedules. And I'll wrap it up there and see if there's any questions or comments.
Yeah, I do have a question, Kathy. This is Annie McHale, council member. The Gorge Pass, is that for everyone or persons fitting a special application process?
No, it's for everyone. You can go to gorgepass.com right now. Go to gorgepass.com and you can purchase your pass.
Okay,
30
great. Thank you.
30 bucks. Yeah. Yeah. So we do have a low income pass program, and where we work with our partner organizations in all 5 counties. And that low income program gets bus passes into the hands of those who qualify for their programs free. So we do have a special program for our lower income residents.
Well, it's all fantastic. Thank you for your help.
And we recently got a flyer, I think, from Kat and from Sophie, that we published to our Facebook page and our website as well.
Nice.
And they're publishing it and distributing it as well throughout the county.
That's wonderful. Oh, you reminded me. So MCED recently got a very large grant. We got about a $300,000 grant to do a 2-year marketing plan for the Gorge Pass. So that was the other thing that our the Gorge residents have been really asking for, was a really concerted, large marketing effort to not only market our services, all of our public transportation services, but also educate the public how to use them. So we're really excited. We're going to have a travel trainer coming on board. We got a travel trainer with another grant. And but the marketing plan is just coming into play, and you will see a big campaign launching in November.
Fantastic.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, Leanna, was there anything that you wanted to add? Leanna has been a really big supporter and a big participant in our planning process, and I just really appreciate how much the city has committed and invested in public transit, locally and regionally as well.
No, but I think Councilmember Amy also has her hand up for a question.
R2D2.
We got thank you.
Maybe Amy, if you could, I don't know where she is. She might not be able to enter something in the chat if you have a question.
She's driving.
Oh yeah,
So,
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
not so possible.
But Amy, I have Kathy's contact information, and I can get you that if you have a follow-up question.
Yeah, and think if you were on the bus, you could be. there's Wi-Fi on the bus, folks. I spent many hours. I have a lot. Oh.
No, we can't hear you, Amy.
Oh, let's see.
Oh, my internet connection is unstable. So it could be on our end.
Let me hear.
Mhm.
Speak about the bridge at all? Okay.
As far as the bridge crossing for the, are you talking about the Port of Cascade Locks Bridge, the Bridge of the Gods specifically, or with regards to public transit? It's very delayed. I can give an update on the Bridge of the Gods situation there. I believe they've, out of the committee at the federal level, they have language in there to get the grant that they need, the flat grant, which would allow them to move forward on the project that they're trying to do to allow easier, safer pedestrian access. But they don't know where it's going to end up as it goes through both the House and the Senate. That's as far as I know on that. I do know that they sent out some information also about they had a recent engineering analysis done on the bridge, and they expect a report back in the fall as far as the conditions of the bridge go and whether it needs additional repairs. It's the same analysis that was done a few years back, which led to the weight restrictions. And so right now, there's no additional restrictions on the bridge, and they'll just wait and see what comes out of it. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kathy.
It says no internet, but I can't tell if it's working. Okay, situation updates. Most of our restrictions were lifted not that long ago. Restaurants are back up to 100%. There are still some mask requirements if you're not fully vaccinated. We were just talking about our percentage of vaccinations. What was it, 33? Not great. So I have for the COVID one. Although, oh, my brother just sent me a text. He lives in LA or works in LA County, and LA County has just replaced the indoor mask mandate. So I don't know if that has something to do with the Delta variant or not. So we'll see how that pans out. The other update that we had last month was the chlorine situation, but the repairs that were needed were completed ahead of schedule, and they seem to be ramping back up to production levels, although the supply chain or the pipeline was depleted. So those that needed like municipal water plants and such will get priority, and then they'll start to go out from there. Again, my brother works for a hotel and he can't get chlorine in LA right now. So pools especially are being hit hard by this. Okay, so sewer plant.
So one of the, so in addition to the wastewater collection system upgrades, phase 1, which would be Rock Creek Drive, the Cascade Interceptor, which is along Rock Creek Drive, as well as the Rock Creek Lift Station. So that was $300,000 over budget, and it also was slated to start on September 15th, which puts excavation during the rainy months, which is not recommended by our geotech. And so we are in conversations with EDA and the contractor to see if we can delay the project to next year. Our EDA contract is out until tomorrow, and we have until tomorrow or Saturday to issue the notice to proceed. So the conversation will be if we can delay the project for a year or until early next year, so that the excavation is during the drier months. And then the other part of that conversation also is, does that then change the requirements to where we may need to go out to bid again? So that's what we'll be working through, and we'll let you know next week what that means.
Could a delay also put it at a higher price for any reason? Can you foresee that, or should it just maintain the same?
If we can keep the contract, then the contract prices will stay firm. There is a risk if we stick to the same schedule that the prices will increase, because there's increased cost with regards to dewatering. But part of the reason why we didn't get as many bids also was because the late season. And then also the reason for the delay is trying to procure items. So
Right.
It's hard to tell what's going to happen within the next 6 months.
So you'll just update us whenever you hear
Mhm.
response.
Yes, yes. Yes. In either case, it will require a contract change, so it'll kind of cover you as well, so, right. Because it will be outside of the 150 days for construction if they begin this year and have to end next. Okay, so, and then working on the loan contract with Department of Ecology, we should anticipate that in the next few months. And that will be for the wastewater treatment plant project, as well as the main D extension. But we're wrapping up the design phase contract and submitting our final reimbursement for that. So it's kind of a nice, the timeline's working out with that one.
Good.
That's all.
Okay, let's dive right into the ARPA funds.
So, I was able to provide a list of projects that we can spend the funding for. And they're in different buckets. So one of them is utility customer support. That would include providing assistance to households impacted by paying the past due utility balances. So we kind of have a balance of about $30,000 overall. And the breakdown is there. So there's 22 active residential customers as of the end of last month, which total almost $12,000. This wouldn't be used for commercial accounts. And it could possibly be used for the inactive residential accounts as well, which is $860. So that is one way the funds can be used. We've reached out to all of the customers with past due balances and provided them contacts for WAGAP and for additional assistance. I believe 2 customers have followed up with that. And those applications, I think, ended the 1st of July. So as far as we know at this point in time, there's no additional assistance to those. The governor extended the moratorium on water shutoffs until the end of September, so it coincides with the eviction notices. So if we do utility customer support, that'd be about $12,000. Water infrastructure, there's a couple of different projects that we have which don't, the School Street water line replacement doesn't fall within many high scoring guidelines for reimbursement or for any of the loan programs. It's a water line that's just leaky. It doesn't impact fire flow. It doesn't have any health hazards. And so it's, again, just leaky. And so that's part of the reason why we put it on the list, because it's not a good project for outside funding. And so that what we had in 2019 was a $375,000 estimate. And we can get another estimate as well to better reflect the current pricing. The Hegwald well treatment is another water project we could spend the funds on, but we don't know what that cost is yet. We're still waiting to hear back from the engineer on that. And what that would do is that would treat for the high pH at Hegwald well to make it a permanent source for the city's water system. Right now, it is an emergency source, and so it doesn't need additional treatment. The other infrastructure piece would be wastewater infrastructure. And so what that would do is we could, again, items that are difficult to find outside funding for, but we could do latecomers agreements on, which would be sewer extensions to spur future development. So similar to the main D extension that we're doing, we have other places and other locations where people keep calling and asking about property, either that's for sale or that they want to develop. However, due to the topography or due to land restrictions, they're not able to put a septic on it. Or they're waiting for the sewer to come, but it's prohibitive for them to do it alone. And so that's where this would sort of help along with those developments. I'll keep on the infrastructure and then come back to the business and economic development one. So broadband is another one. We could do fiber to the home, which has been done in some gorge communities as well, but we don't know what the estimate would be for that type of project. There is fiber in town. City Hall has fiber. And I believe the library and school does as well.
Chamber.
And the chamber, yeah. And then it can also replace lost revenues. And so based on their calculation, there's an estimated about $287,000 in lost revenue as well due to COVID. That's across all funds. So it's not just the general fund, it's between water, sewer, as well as our general fund, sales tax, and other taxes. Business and economic development. So in talking with the Stevenson Downtown Association, they came up with some plans as well. Let's see. And so in the packet, they gave a brief background as far as what the Downtown Association does. And how they're a Main Street organization and the history of that. That and Geo. And then sort of how they've helped us with the pandemic response. So if you've gone through downtown businesses and gotten anything to go, all of those boxes are the stickers and the promotion as well for the what was it, the Stevenson Strong campaign? That was paid for in part by COVID funds. Another program that they do is the Bricks for Clicks grant, which is $1,000 for either physical improvements or upgrades to their websites and other e-commerce. And so they've awarded 19 grants, and so $18,000 is directly invested. And one of the other things that they've done with the program too is you get a greater reimbursement rate if you use local businesses and local products to leverage those dollars. So it's again supporting businesses within our community. And so there's some of the businesses that it helped. So the Stevenson Strong promotion. So the city paid for some of the takeout boxes and bags as well. And I believe, and then they have other funding that helped with the, to reimburse the businesses for the discount. So that $5 or $10 off that you got didn't come out of business, it came out of the Downtown Association. And so these are some of the programs that are already existing. And most of our economy within the city is downtown. And that's also why we have a large focus on trying to make the downtown a place that promotes business and promotes community.
Is that the Ed McMahon?
Hmm?
Is that the Ed McMahon? Do you know?
Oh, I don't know. No, because it's National Main Street. It's probably not. Right?
He's bringing checks.
Right? Maybe.
There's the balloons.
Right. And so again, more information on why the Downtown Association is also a good program to leverage as a bridge to helping the downtown community. They do have a specific prong within their organization for economic vitality, which this fits in. Within here, here's some information as far as how the dollars can be spent for downtown uses. And so business districts is specific as an eligible use, as well as travel, tourism, and hospitality. And again, these are the interim final rules. There'll probably be a final rule as well. This is evolving as we go. By the way, we already have half of the funds in our bank account. So But we have until 2024 to obligate the funds and 2026 to spend them. So you don't have to make a decision tonight on any of these. And we can provide you more information on any of the programs. And Kelly is unable to come tonight, but she can come at a later date if you would like. And so some of the proposed options provided by the SDA is additional, just keep the Bricks and Clicks grant going. So again, providing, I think she said $5,000 to $20,000. I requested a range because one thing I see is we can do some of these projects in conjunction with some larger projects as well. And so kind of trying to spread the money as best possible and not just spend it all on one thing. Another one is, again, continue that Stevenson Strong promotion. And both of these have leveraged COVID funds in the past. And the Stevenson Streetery, which again is a direct correlation to the COVID impact, where people have to eat outside. There's limitations on indoor seating capacity. And so the funds would be used to improve that location. I think right now that it was all put together by various supporters and donations that are all listed on the signs out there. And they're having their open house, or the first chamber happy hour there today from 5 to 7, which is where Kelly's at.
Have you guys had a chance to check that space out?
The streetery?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
And
I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some other proposed options. So these are programs that aren't in existence right now. Would be providing startup costs for an entrepreneurial ecosystem in partnership with the chamber. And so, yeah, again, just like an incubator. And so the way that this fits in is the ruling is for technical assistance, counseling, or other services to assist businesses. I think the gray area that we would want to clarify is, it will assist businesses that aren't in existence yet. And so that's, I think, one thing we just need to clarify if this is one thing you want to move forward with. The other thing is everyone's having a hard time hiring people. And so the money can also be used for hiring incentives. So we can do a smaller grant or a larger grant, and providing it to the restaurants to hopefully lure new hires. I know people are trying to raise salaries, but there is a limit there. And then, of course, affordable housing is always a challenge too. But with the new bus system, they can take the bus to work.
That's right.
And then we can also provide just direct grants to businesses without really many strings.
So could any of these grants actually help them increase wages of their employees? Can it be used for that stream of funding? Do you know? Or do we say?
That's a perilous path.
Right. I mean, so the challenge is this is a one-time grant. It's not a continuous grant.
Right.
And so that's where it would be.
So then how do they maintain that
Right.
level once the grant is done?
Right, which is where, I mean, we can give you a hiring incentive, which may help you relocate or help you get something to get here,
Mhm.
but it wouldn't necessarily help
Sustained.
sustain.
The comment that I've heard the most is that it would be a pay cut to come off of unemployment and come back
Yeah,
to work.
absolutely.
So offering an incentive to get off the couch, which seems counterintuitive to me, but here's an option for you. Please come back to work. Get off the couch.
I don't like that term, get off the couch either. I think that people are really struggling to go to work and have daycare and have transportation and have all the expenses that they have. I don't think they're just sitting on a couch. Is it possible that they could raise funds, or I'm sorry, raise wages in a time frame, like say we've got until 2026, right? And that gives them enough time perhaps to generate more revenue to be able to sustain that beyond the 2026 date or the date that they get the grant. I don't know, it's an interesting conversation, I think, to have with Kelly.
Mhm.
And I would look forward to having her be here so that we can address some of these questions with her directly, and maybe even Kevin Waters of the EDC.
It might go outside of our scope to raise minimum wage or raise. the
Yeah,
wages.
I don't know that we'd be I don't know. I don't know. It's just a question I'm asking. I don't know that we can do it or we should do it. But I would like the discussion to be had to determine what our parameters will be for this.
A question.
Go for it.
I'm interested in the utility customer support specifically, but I'm wondering if it's possible to spread that money across all residential customers, not those with accounts 30 days past due. In other words, this doesn't necessarily have to be a needs-based grant.
Mhm.
It could be, excuse me, relief across the board for all of our people who are hard hit, whether they've paid their water bill or not,
Mhm.
their utility bill or not. So I like the options that enable us to spread the dollars over all of our citizens and not just some of our citizens, at least to some extent, because there are a lot of people who are paying those bills, but for whom it's still a hardship.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's a good point.
That's like the idea of the grants to continue to support our local businesses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, so there's other, a couple of more grant options for businesses. One is blade sign micro grants. And so those are the signs that get a little bit more notice because it sticks out from the street when you're walking down.
Right.
And so that's another,
But do we want those? I thought we were trying to get rid of those.
It was something that we were trying to encourage.
Blade signs are good because
Okay.
they tell the traveling public what's available,
Okay.
where,
Okay.
instead of just plug it against the wall, which you don't see.
Or the sandwich sign that's out in the middle of where
If you're
people are trying to
walking.
walk.
Right, exactly.
Behind the car.
But we're not gonna end up with like the guys who are inflated, who are like.
Oh, yeah, right.
No,
no, it's like the Bloomsbury sign. Like that's the, yeah.
That's what you mean
Yeah.
by blade sign,
Blade
because I'm
sign,
talking
yeah.
about those.
Oh, the flags.
blowy
You're talking about the flags.
I'm
No,
talking
no,
about those
no.
flags that like,
Yeah.
that I thought we were all on the same page about trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks
Uh,
for clarifying.
Another one
Yeah,
is,
we don't need to go
yeah, is a facade grant, but which would be larger than the bricks or clicks. So, $1,000 can only get you to do so much. Whereas I think there are a couple of buildings that would like to do a little bit more to their facade. And they could if they just had a little bit more funds. And so that's kind of where the additional grant would be. And so it could either be just here, it's just the recommendation for 2 large facade grants for $20,000. So it'd be $20,000 total, but $10,000 grant. And then some of these also, some of these we can also continue using other funds for if we wanted to continue with this. And so, I mean, the way that I see it as well is if with some of these, it starts increasing business and traffic downtown, we'll get increased sales tax, and then we can then put those funds aside for continuing some of these grant programs to, again, keep that money circulating more or less.
That's awesome.
So if it's not right for the ARPA funds, doesn't mean that we can't do it, because these are small enough dollar amounts that it gives us flexibility and is easy to use other funds for.
Yeah.
And I think, and then the other one was help the downtown association bridge their budget gap. So a lot of the funds that they receive are for the Main Street Tax Incentive Program. And so when businesses had to close, they then did not get those tax credits. And so they also received a hit financially as well. And so these funds can go to help their budget shortfall.
Does anybody have any opinion on broadband and whether or not that would be a priority?
That's always been something that we've
Yeah.
held as a priority, but got a few other big projects that have been kind of taking our attention. But that is potentially something that, you know, we could bring in an intern. I'm assuming there's something along those lines, so we can prime a project like that.
Is there still so much need? Do you think? Or are we moving to like satellite and other things? I'm wondering if there's,
Sort of see it as the same thing we did with the Wi-Fi here for Stevenson.
yeah,
We
is
set
it
up-
older technology
Yeah,
at this
we're
point?
behind the curve already,
Mhm.
changing every day.
Broadband as a concept is technology agnostic,
Hmm,
and so it would include Starlink. And
Okay.
so what does somebody need to have access to Starlink if that's providing the right speed?
Mhm.
It's about the speed, it's not about the technology.
Thank you. Does that answer your question, Annie?
Yeah, it does. Moves it further down the line for me.
So you're looking for direction or no direction? at this point?
Direction. Looking for direction.
Well, I personally would like, would like to seriously consider the business and economic development, of course. And then, Amy just brought my attention to the utility customer support as a broad swath that everybody is included in that. I don't know, I guess I'm still kind of in a COVID mindset and recognizing just how many people have been impacted by that. And it's not going to go away anytime soon. So that's kind of where my line of thought is going, is just helping people and businesses as best we can.
And one of my frustrations is that whole unemployment mindset. And I can get more money on unemployment than I can go back to work. And how long that's gonna last, and when that unemployment stops. Because the pot's gonna dry up pretty quick. And when it does, it's gonna shock a lot of people back to reality, and then they're gonna go, well, okay, now what? And then what are we dealing with? And, and like we've got 22 active residential customers that counts 30 days past due for $11,000. So are we just talking about writing that off? Are we talking about making a payment plan for them, or how are we talking about addressing that? And, I understand and I sympathize with what's going on out there, but at the same time, you can only hand out so much stuff. And, it's like the old biblical thing where, you either teach them to fish and let them, or just keep feeding them fish, one or the other. So how do we take these people that are behind? How do we get them current? And how do we help them to stay current? Or how do we help them in their financial situation? Because I think we would be better off as a community if we figure out ways to help them out. It's frustrating that only 2 people went to WAGAP to do an application when you've got 22 here. That should have been a requirement if we were talking about changing this. You need to go to WAGAP first. You need to fill out an application. You need to do these steps to try to help yourself first. And then we'll take a look at and try to help you out, rather than just a blank check. I have real issues about that. Because it's taxpayer money that we're dealing with, whether it's federal money or local money. You and I all pay into that pot.
Well, so do
At
they
some point.
too. So are they.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing is just lack of daycare. People can't go back to work because they don't have daycare options for their children. So that's a big,
Yes.
a big percentage, I think. But yeah, I agree with you. Let's get people
Back on their feet.
yeah. And doing it in a self-sustaining way so that they can take pride in that and prevent it from happening in the future if it's at all possible.
Absolutely.
So that said, Dave, are there some of these projects that you like more than others? I mean, just broad brush, I guess.
I like the idea about trying to keep the revitalization of the business district moving forward. How we go about that, I mean, we have a lot of different options on that. You know, we have 4 commercial customers, $17,000 worth of debt, basically. How do we go about helping them pay that off? I would rather see us use funds, if we're going to be doing this type of thing, to help them pay that off rather than just give them a blank check and, you know, and just say, okay, well, we're going to start at ground zero again. Because I think that even though business is a risk, we all know that when we have businesses, and we should build into that business model how we mitigate risks or how we try to minimize those risks. And if we need to take a look at those businesses and look at their business model and figure out, okay, what can we do to help you, number one, pay this off, but at the same time, mitigate or minimize these risks that we are currently dealing with. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think I'm in the same vein as you in that I do not want to reward people for not paying their bills, because essentially you punish the people who do pay their bills.
Mm-hmm.
And, but what I hear, I think, is general consensus. I haven't heard from you, Robert, but general consensus about, yeah, we're interested in economic development stuff in some fashion, doing something with some part of this money for business and economic development. And then the question is how much and what to do with the rest of the money, right? But I personally would like to see it split a little bit. I'd like to see some of it offer relief specifically for utility bills, because we have been in the unique position of raising our rates and raising our rates and raising our rates again and again and again. And this doesn't teach anybody to fish, but there's no way to teach people to fish. And it does give them some relief. I mean, with this particular issue.
Maybe it teaches them,
So
helps them buy a fishing pole.
maybe,
And just to chime in for my own 2 cents.
yeah.
I'm not on the same page with the utility issue
Yeah.
because we're the only winners of that. That money's coming to us. So we're taking federal dollars, making
It's
it a
good
pass
point.
through, and the
It's a good
city's the
point.
only one getting these dollars.
Okay,
Oh, I see.
that's
All
a
we're
good
doing
point.
right
We're paying
now, yeah,
ourselves, you're
right.
saying.
So we're just saying, like,
Okay,
I like 1 and 2 of the fund new possible grant programs, because again, it's a broader program for our, business. And I think that for 450 grand, we should really be promoting the businesses that then promote our economy locally,
Provide jobs.
as opposed to dealing with the utility issue, which
Yeah.
but it's kind of a one-off, and it's basically a drop in the bucket, really, the forfeit. We could just pay ourselves 20 grand and go, okay, we'll write you guys off, but
okay,
that's not really fair to, like you said, folks who are paying their
Yeah.
bills. So how do you do it? I like the idea of coming up with an overall scheme that provides either through the business district, the SBA, whoever we are, the chamber, whoever we need to sort of put together the program, and we fund that program, but it's equal match. Everybody's got an opportunity to get in on it. We're not favoring one business over the other business, which is where the facade program,
yeah,
my only concern there is we're just, again, now
agreed.
we're agreeing to help one person's personal
Yeah.
property, whether it be the tenant owner or the owner of the building itself. So I got a problem there that we're just directing dollars there. I like the idea of directing dollars in a program that if they want to use it for facade, that's great, but whatever the strings are that we put on it, we're done.
Mhm.
Well, those are my 2 cents on direction.
Well, to
But-
piggyback on that then, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Providing stimulus to businesses that would be self-perpetuating, so that provide more jobs, provide better service, provide
Yeah.
help your business. I'm sorry.
And keep our storefronts from going dark. I
Right.
mean, that's the tough time in the winter when you drive through here, and on occasion we see everything go dark.
Yeah.
Or it did 45 years ago. It's just like, ooh.
Is there, Liana, is there something that we are currently funding that we could pull the funding from and replace with our funds? And then refocus those funds, not necessarily having the restrictions of ARP on those funds. I'm just,
No, I mean, the only thing I would think of,
you understand what I'm talking about?
I do.
And I don't know enough about the budget to.
Right, I mean, the only thing that comes to mind is actually funding the SDA or SBA, but those comes from lodging tax funds, which are very restrictive, and they're more restrictive than what we're talking about,
Yeah.
so.
I think Dave maybe even suggesting is taking dollars that we're going to direct to the, like the Columbia Avenue, Russell Street projects or any of our street projects and say, oh, we can backdoor those funds with these funds. And then we've got those funds available for other projects. I think that these federal funds are not
We can't use it for streets.
right. So I
Yeah,
don't
but
think
you
they're
can use it
available.
for water.
We can use it for
lines
water.
and
Right, yeah,
sewer
yeah,
and things
yeah,
like that.
Yeah.
Oh, so they got the street
Well-
to fix the water, but we can't.
Right?
That doesn't make sense.
Right?
Gonna fix the street once we dig it up. I like it.
Well, I still come back to, I would like to offer some direct relief to residents. And that could, like, I could be convinced that could be in the form of an infrastructure investment, which does aid every single resident.
And I can do
So that's
something
another way to
to
think about it.
better make that connection,
Mhm.
as far as better communicate what that impact is,
Yeah,
and what that means.
so I'm totally down for a chunk of it going to business and economic development, but I would like to see some of it directly benefit residents as well.
Good thing we got 2 years to spend the funds.
Right, yeah.
Do we have an interest bearing account at least? Or do we have a
Well,
restricted?
what
fund?
interest right now?
Yeah, exactly. We got
So-
3%. All right.
But
Yeah, you
yeah,
get a couple of CDs for this.
right,
That's what we got, 200 some odd $1,000 sitting in the bank right now.
yep, yeah, we'll get another next year.
Oh, is it coming in annual payments
Yeah.
or distribution?
Two trenches.
Two.
Mhm.
So I think this is gonna have to come back.
Oh, yes,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I wasn't expecting,
This is 30.
I would also be interested in talking to Kelly,
yeah,
Oh, I met
Yeah.
Kelly, yeah.
right.
having
Okay.
a face-to-face discussion, like Annie was talking about.
Okay, we'll
Address
have her
some of
come
this.
and present.
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
Mhm.
And
Thank you.
This is more of funneling the money so that it's not just a shotgun approach. So yeah, we're getting further down the funnel.
Yeah.
All right,
Awesome.
7B.
Okay. Outside utility services. So we've talked about outside utility services a couple of times. And in our plan, in our strategic plan, it's defined as the deliberate growth strategy. And so this is, how do we provide services to areas outside of the city to either encourage annexation? I guess the question is, do we want to? There are places that currently have city water that are outside city limits because they've been grandfathered in before council changed the ordinance regarding water outside of city limits. So this discussion would be whether or not we want to. So we are expecting growth. We see houses drive by on a regular basis going up the hill. And so it's happening and we want to try to do it in a smart way. And then we've also talked with the county as far as lining up some of our zoning ordinances as well, so that the areas in the urban growth boundary that are grow and develop are then developed under city codes. And so we'll be working on that interlocal agreement probably the beginning of next year. But with this, we talked about this a couple council meetings ago, and there basically were kind of three different directions. One is maintain what we're currently doing, which is not offering people the ability to connect to city services unless they annex in. The other option is to allow new connections on existing mains, because there are some main lines that do run right by property that is in the county, like I said, due to those historic connections. And then the other option is to allow new connections to create new public mains, or when we create new public mains. And again, that would be on a latecomers type of scenario, or if a developer, again, wants to allow them to create a new line, and then allow other people to connect as well, but outside the city limits. And there are multiple ways that can be done. And so, Ben, did you want to add anything more to?
Just generally, what you're seeing in front of you as a staff report is much more like we run things at the planning commission level, where we're introducing some of the aspects of the issue, a potential solution, and asking you for the next steps as far as what information do you need to make a decision, and how do you want to involve the public in the decision-making process. So if you are going to move forward in talking about this, I'm really hoping that you can provide that dialogue to staff about what information do you need to go forward, and what information or what involvement do we expect from the public from this, and then a little bit deeper dive into the strategies that you want to see us use for public involvement. The template for the staff report includes a matrix of public involvement strategies that is something that goes to the planning commission on a regular basis. The planning commission has just wrapped up a subcommittee that they had related to public involvement that more concretely laid out where involvement could occur within a process. So they've got a framework for public involvement related to public policy decisions. And within that framework, the subcommittee had recommended several tactics, methods of involvement. And so having some discussion by you all to see what's appropriate for this issue is something I'd like to see come out of this meeting. 86 and 87 are specifically those tactics. The framework is on preceding 4 pages, 5 pages. So just looking for general discussion about, when you go about making a decision like this, what information do you need? And how are we going to communicate that information, and what information are we going to seek from the public on the issue?
Been a couple of questions I have just to develop my thoughts here. Round figures, what do we have as unimproved lots within the city of Stevens? Are we less than 80 now? Less than 40? Unimproved meaning there's not a structure currently on it.
Yeah, potential infill lots.
That's if the property owner decides to.
Not just what's vacant
Yeah.
right now. I know, I'm just an idea of that could be a potential water service customer, but right now we're less than 80, right?
I would say so. It's really hard to put a figure on, because many of the tax lots have multiple underlying legal lots,
Right.
and there's nobody that's tracking what that number is. So,
Well, that would be dividable lots then once you get into the lot. The idea now, especially with our new changes.
but they'd be existing divided lots that are just getting one tax bill.
Right.
So
But they would be dividable. So yeah, so I mean, again, are we looking at potentially, let's say less than 100 new customers, right?
I can get that specific.
I mean, that would be, just giving us around, so to develop a thought process here is the idea that what we limited to right now is potential new accounts, only have about 100 for an income stream on water service that we provide. So if we're limited at that, then I think we do have to, as you want to know, look at whether or not these options of allowing outside city limit lot users to access our water, to provide our water to them, even at the billing rate, but not require they come within the city limits. Because I know certain people go, wait a minute, your city taxes are higher than the county taxes, so I don't want to come within that purview. I'd rather sit on the outside, but I don't mind getting the water, because obviously I think most people are running out of water, even on the well system. It's hit and miss, right? So as a city, we used to always say, oh, like, no, we want you in, we want you in. And the idea now is if there's a means of allowing folks to tap into our system, we get the fee for it, we provide the service, but we don't force those people to then come under our tax brackets. I think that is an option that we need to be renewed. I know we talked about it years ago, and we kind of had a firm stance. So of the options, I think that's one we need to look at harder.
Bear in mind the rate for your rate setting, it's pretty typical that the charge for the outside users is higher than the charge for the inside users.
And
And it's justified.
Right.
And in most rate analysis, they can factor that in, so.
and that helps us spread these utility
Exactly.
charges further. which is-
Exactly.
Yeah, if we're capped at 100 folks that we're gonna spread it over now, we don't have a lot to work with. so.
Well, it seems like, especially when you're talking about existing mains. So for example, we've got water running right up Bone.
Right about, yeah.
My neighbors directly across the street. We even had a couple that ended up selling their property to James and Sophia, came in here pleading, please help us get some water.
I
And
remember that.
the city council said, the rule is the rule, and we're not bending on that. But the water main's right there.
Yep.
So I could see that as an overlay. But then do you have actually also factor in, does it fit in with our growth plan? Like, is that the direction we thought we're going? But if it's a water main right there,
Right.
it kind of removes that discussion.
Well, I mean, if we have to build new infrastructure, we can tap into our funds and tell the city, but again, only certain people are getting that benefit, and that's
Yeah.
who's ever available to that water or sewer line wherever it runs. The question is, yeah, the expense for us, we can't take that on. We can't fund that, just run the line and then hope the latecomers agreements fund it. That's just, I think that's a bad fiscal decision.
Especially if there's new infrastructure to be built, there are lots that, like, for example, if we would have gotten the funding that we were pursuing to increase infrastructure up Loop here, we would have had a couple of properties that would have been able to build because they're too small to put a septic tank on.
Right.
So now there is the needed infrastructure, which does open some additional opportunities, but it doesn't address the fact that we're talking about people outside the city limits. But it does feel hard to commit money to infrastructure when there's infrastructure that's needed for people that are already in city limits.
Well, for 25 years that I've been doing this, these councils have almost uniformly said they can get the water, they just have to annex. So that's always been a sticking point with prior councils. I did notice the draft that was presented as far as a revised ordinance did include what's called a non-remonstrance provision for anybody who might want to get this water, which means that they cannot protest an annexation application that's presented for their area. So they're treated as a yes, right? In an annexation petition, what is 60% annexation, 10% to file the petition. They're basically a yes in that application. So they can't then come in and then say, oh, I don't want to annex into the city, which that's kind of a baseline. I find that most cities have this sort of a non-remonstrance provision. And so even if they're not immediately annexed, they're precluded from later saying no for an annexation, which I think is wise.
So why, I'm just wondering, in the case of your neighbors, why wouldn't they petition to be annexed?
Oh, remember, Amy, you were here for that meeting.
So
it turned into
somebody did,
nightmare.
and there was,
I don't remember.
Because there was a couple who absolutely didn't want to be annexed, and they needed to get the percentage in order to have
Oh,
a
oh,
petition.
I
I
see.
mean, we had everybody here wanting us to give them water, and we
Yeah.
just couldn't do it because the
They-
neighbors
and
didn't
they
want to
didn't
get
have the
it.
numbers.
And then
from
the original
neighbors.
petitioner
Okay, thank you.
found
That was
their,
just, it felt horrible for them. It was
Yeah.
like they were sitting on an island.
Yeah, yeah.
when the
okay.
original petitioner found their dream home that was already built.
Yeah.
And didn't need to make all of these other things happen to
Yeah.
build their dream home. They found it, so they withdrew.
Gotcha. Okay. Because, I mean, I kind of go back to thinking like, well, we had these decisions were made by us and many other previous councils to require annexation for a reason, right? And now we're reevaluating whether that reason holds or not, and I kind of think it still does. But that's a hard one in an instance like that.
I think that we too, if we get back to, I was listening to the planning commission meeting talking about the process of how they go with public, addressing the public and getting information out. We need to be real clear about why we are talking about this. What are the bullet points of talking about,
Pros and cons
yeah.
for each of these.
doing all of that stuff ahead of time and then getting that out there to the public and saying, listen, we're talking about this. If you guys got any ideas, because sometimes there's a lot of information out there, with our citizens that, maybe we're not thinking about. And I just think it's important that we don't forget that.
Wanted to address something that Robert said about the tax rate increasing when you come into the city. It doesn't. It goes down.
It is down.
It goes down, but there's such a common misconception that it would go up because most every city has this tool already in place where they have the agreement to annex, and then they also have an agreement to participate in a local improvement district that will bring the city level services to a property. And so that local improvement district is paid back through your taxes over a period of years, whatever period that may be. And that's where the tax rate goes up temporarily.
Okay.
And so the reason why I bring it up is just to correct you, is to provide that context that we have that misconception, because that misconception applies almost everywhere. It doesn't apply here.
And I had the misconception. I thought that once you were annexed, there was 2 or 3 line items on your tax bill that were different than the county residents only.
County road tax goes away. Fire tax goes away. City tax comes on.
And city tax is less than the 2.
It's less than the road tax.
Like a couple bucks for
Yeah.
a normal house.
Yeah.
But
All right.
I think
That's good information.
the greater impact though is it will impact the revenues to the fire district, which is a partner of ours.
Yeah.
So,
We're just swapping spots. for
Well,
deficits.
right,
Yeah.
Well, it's city
So-
versus county.
right.
It feels like a no-brainer. If there's an existing main right there and they're within
Yeah.
a reasonable distance to attach, it's another customer.
Yeah.
It's
Man,
much
that's
more
the
money
thing. I
and
can't
it's,
Especially
remember.
given that,
and it's a yes
Yeah.
vote when the time comes.
yeah, especially given that.
There's a
I'm
lot
okay
of
with
pros
that.
in there.
Yeah.
And I just can't remember why we were adamant about the annexation. I don't remember the reasons why that you alluded to. We did have them. I just can't remember what they were at that
I
time.
can't believe
Mary
I said
Ann, for a
Mary.
bazillion years, Mary Ann
Mariana
said,
versus- all right.
don't give them don't give away the carrot. That's the carrot. You
Yeah.
give it away, you'll never get it back.
Yeah.
That's
Yes.
always what she
Throw
said.
Mariana under the bus.
That is,
the same way?
I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And so, but if we do have an agreement to where they would annex or not protest and annex.
That seems pretty key.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Doesn't get them annexed.
No, it doesn't.
Right,
it
right.
doesn't.
You still need the
Right.
Still
rest
go
of
through
the
the
people to
process.
get the 60%.
But if
Okay.
somebody-
And so if someone does want water really bad, then they would go through the process to annex.
They gotta round up the neighbors.
Right.
But nobody's gonna bother to do that if they can connect to the main without annexation.
Correct.
How many of those properties do we have?
Right.
Come on, Rain Man. Pull it out.
So
62.4.
just to throw it out there as a what if we get enough customers that are near an existing main and now all of a sudden we have 60% of an area that can't say no. Somebody
Are we gonna
still,
Then the city can petition the annexation. If you got 60%, you got the
whatever
annexation.
way you draw it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the 10,000. If we're over 10,000, there's a boundary review board.
Oh, there you go. This is where it's coming
I
in.
think well, I have to check onto that, but that's my memory. It's-
We have a boundary.
We have
We have a boundary review board,
Yeah.
so that might affect how you gerrymander a boundary for an annexation, because the boundary review board has to find that that is a reasonable sort of chunk to come into the city geographically.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
That's such a negative.
Yeah.
Well, it's a completely racist term if you look at it. It's like, oh, no, the Germans are doing it all the time. I mean,
That was,
it's
it was
been there forever.
after, Gary something, and they changed it to Gary, but it was a person.
Oh, it was a person.
Yeah, it wasn't.
I thought it was spelled
wasn't
G-R-Y, yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I
It is
know, it's
spelled
spelled that
G-R-Y.
way. There's history.
But yeah, I think that's, what other direction do you need then on that? I mean, that's a concept that we seem to have some agreement to push forward on and get some background. Is there other tools you want us to
Public involvement
discuss?
strategy, you want
Yeah.
that more from that?
Well, so I think what Dave was alluding
That's
to
all.
earlier, I think if I understood him, was with the public engagement and making certain that we bring them into the conversations so that they can present things to us that we may not be thinking of collectively. So would this engagement method or analysis draft starting on page 86, does that support what you're looking for?
So it sounds like, well, I said it sounded like there was some agreement that if it's near an existing main already, why not?
Well, I would
Don't-
like to see numbers on that, but
Yeah,
If-
right.
It takes away their no vote on an annexation proposal. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And the other big question is, if extending outside of city limits is a carrot for annexation, do you remove, to Leanna's point, don't remove the carrot, but how do you balance that with the no, you don't get a no vote?
Yeah, there are other carrots with annexation. It's not just water. I mean, you get, potentially access to the city's sewer system. You get a higher density typically. I don't know. I mean, I look what the county zoning is in some of these areas, but typically you get a higher density, so you have more ability to subdivide and so forth.
And that's always been the concern that I've been trying to keep at the forefront, is that if we have our sites on growing in a particular direction, and the county approves a short plat that does not meet our density, then that opportunity is gone. So yes, annexation with the density that we have built in, there's something to be said for that.
So what I'm hearing from you now is you want numbers on our capacity, what proportion of that capacity we need for infill development. What the impact of that capacity could be for existing adjacent properties. Those two things. The process for reviewing that, I'm not hearing anything specific from you other than, yeah, I'm not hearing anything
Well,
specific.
why are we doing it? Why are we discussing this? So, so that if people out there say, they're talking about running a water line, or they're talking about doing this. Well, why are we talking about that? What is that, those discussion points? Those discussion points need to be, the people need to know what those discussion points are. That was one of the complaints that we had. Was it last meeting or the meeting before last? Where they were talking about, the public, they don't know the why on some of our
That was
discussions.
the transportation improvement plan that we were talking
Yes,
about.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. So I just think we need to make sure that we address that.
So just in following up on that, what I envision that to be is the city's financial well-being. Because again, the only service we sell is water. If we can sell more water, we have more income to do more things to, infrastructure and to maintain the city that we need to maintain. I'm trying to think of what sort of
Spread the-
goals, yeah. Well, yeah, you spread it around.
Spread the
obviously.
cost
Yeah.
of the infrastructure among a greater population, which means that it is less,
Lower rate.
it's a lower rate, it's less impactful on the future.
And if they're not
Wow,
city
all I
limits,
heard
we
was
just talked about
socialism, and now all of a sudden I got to deal with that as a talking point.
those non-city residents with city services would pay an additional percentage on top of it. So it's another customer that's a little bit
But I think from a city, it also provides those who are close to well tap-ins, this resolution of the problem of either not having a well or ability to get water to them.
But it also
That seems to
provides-
be a huge problem right now. I don't
But
know.
it provides an opportunity, if we decided to expand the system, it provides an opportunity for more growth.
Oh, yeah.
And if we can, if, for example, you annex an area, there's more city taxes that are then into the county coffers as well. So,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. City financial, you know,
There's-
the well-being of the city. just
But not
financial.
everybody wants growth.
There's a difference between benefit to location. They're close enough where it's just right there, you grab onto it, but actually building out infrastructure and encouraging growth, that's a completely different
Yeah.
conversation.
yeah,
And why spend money on growth if we can't even provide the services for people that are already in the city? So it's weird. You gotta keep that balancing act
Yeah.
in mind.
yeah, if the infrastructure isn't even there to support what you've got right
And
now.
if your crystal ball is wrong and we grow in the wrong
Right.
direction,
Well, keep
Well,
in
but
mind,
so,
new development too, that you'd like to have the new development occur when they're in the city, because then you get the benefit of the sales tax from the construction. If it's built in the county, you're not gonna get that.
what was the order of Chinadere? How did you, were you here for any of that? Like, how did that, was it originally county?
It wasn't here for that.
Boy,
It
that went a
was annexed.
long
Do
time.
you want to go read the lawsuit all over again?
No, I don't.
It was a nightmare.
It was outside of city
Oh,
limits.
Mhm.
They requested annexation, were granted annexation. And then they submitted their subdivision plan.
And then
And the
everything went
subdivision plan didn't
sideways.
in any way comply with the city's regulations. And then everything went
Yeah.
sideways.
I was with Joe on the planning commission when all that was going down, and it was a mess.
Now, did they pay for the infrastructure? Did this,
They paid for everything there. There was an existing public sewer main that ran through the property, through where there were home sites. And so
It came
they
from
paid-
down above, it came down.
yeah,
down through it.
Down further.
Mhm.
So they paid for the replacement of that line to be within the streets and outside of the potential home sites. They paid for the water connection going from the neighborhoods above in a couple locations down all the way to Frank John's Road so that it was a loop system. They paid for offsite improvement to Lutheran Church Road to make that a safe corridor for to meet engineering standards.
But it wasn't a quick deal.
so it's one hand, the city improves infrastructure to encourage growth. But in this situation, the developer paid for all the infrastructure and the city just, well, got more
Customers.
customers.
Well, ideally, you're gonna have the developer pay
Right.
for infrastructure 90% of the time.
Mhm.
exactly.
Right.
That's the goal.
And then you'll have a latecomer typically
Yeah.
for people who want to connect to their system.
Angel Heights, same way. That area was completely unsewered. They paid for the sewer line extension. It's in that pathway that goes up to Angel Heights. They did the road system.
That's right underneath. That's why we paved it.
So that's the development model that was happening for a long time. You haven't been seeing any developments at that sort of scale in Stevenson, and so nothing's happening. And so this conversation about extending a line in advance of developments with a latecomer agreement attached or with a local improvement district that would incentivize doing something to offset that tax burden you have is being considered, has been considered more, or you've at least talked about the concepts where there wasn't a purpose for that because the development market was paying that out.
That was, remember, Angel Heights went in, they actually got construction, they got it done, and they were in by just a year, and then Hidden Ridge started, and all they needed was 1 year late, and it just caused everything to go down. That's why it sat for 15 years, not 15, but yeah. 10 years.
Same with Angel Heights.
Well, Angel Heights built that way. They had like 8 houses, because when I bought my house and there was 08, and it was only 1 of 8 houses. And that house had sat for a year.
Yeah.
It was just timing with the market. Caught it on the downtrend. That's what Shenandoah sat. Vacant for the
Exactly. Right.
longest time.
$10 million dog park.
It was.
So,
What do you
Sounds like-
want for us, Brandon?
Well,
Sorry.
so as far, and I'm realizing that I didn't bring you up to speed on some of the things. So when the planning commission, they're the ones that sponsored that subcommittee to bring these recommendations forward. So they spent a lot of time talking about defining that problem and the engagement tools that you might use to do that, like you create a subcommittee to say the whys. You guys are doing some of that as we talk right now, so I don't know if you want that level of detail from the public in engaging in the why statement and defining the problem and defining potential solutions. If you want to just go out and inform the public of this as a potential solution, solicit their feedback in the channels that you have in the past, either direct contact through you or participation in meetings. What are your expectations?
certainly we want the grant to be satisfied,
in
I
this?
think. Okay.
Do we need a workshop or public?
We certainly need public involvement.
Right, but do you want it as a message delivery or a message discussion?
Message discussion. I think
Agreed.
informing the public has gotten us into a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And we're losing faith of the people we're representing. So I think that we need not to inform, but to invite into conversation.
I can't see us focus solely on like a water, it seems like we want 2 or 3 other items on that workshop discussion, open discussion. I don't know. I just think that that's so micro.
Right, right,
We need some more macro.
right. And get as much information as we possibly can on many things, so we don't have to do it again.
I think that the difference with this is this discussion directly impacts the people that are outside the city limits as well as those inside. So that's where this discussion is unique in that it doesn't involve just those residents inside city limits.
So couldn't it just be a community workshop where we invite everybody and those who want to attend can? And you give them an opportunity or an option to decide whether or not they want to participate in these discussions at both the city and the county level.
And that means that we need to have a way of collecting the feedback
Exactly.
and then
determining
sifting through and
city or
utilizing that
county.
data.
And so maybe there's a survey, that says, are you a city resident or you're a county resident? And then ask for their specific feedback so we can apply it to the proper governing entities.
So there, what's that site? Go Monkey or?
With Survey Monkey.
Yeah. that's
Right,
it.
so we can do a Survey Monkey, but I guess where I was going with that is you're talking about a workshop on multiple different topics.
My
And
thought
so-
is.
Right, right,
if
so,
that one topic would
Oh,
be about it.
right.
dry
And
as
so-
it goes.
Got it.
but you have kind of two different groups.
Right, exactly.
Or just say,
Yeah.
the
Or-
city's hosting a workshop on these 3 important items. We want welcome feedback and discussion and bring your thoughts, comments. And we'd lay out sort of what we believe the objectives are of these 2 or 3 items. It at least gives you a full hour and a half dialogue. You're right.
Yeah.
And you got to collect it. Somebody's taking notes or passing out a survey or.
Yeah.
And we can have it to where, one of the topics or the extension of services is first.
Yes,
And then,
right.
What's the reason for adding more to this agenda? It feels pretty meaty to me.
To me, it didn't. So again, that's just I'm looking at this thing and this is about a 20-minute discussion and then, all right.
Depends how many people show up.
Good point. Good point. A lot more
And how they
ideas
feel
will
about
extend
it.
the discussion.
Well,
right?
and how they feel about it.
The narrative is much broader than I think you're giving it credit for. It's not just extending water outside of city limits. It's all that we've been talking about. How do you manage growth and projected growth and plan growth and
See, I see
What if
that
it
as
goes
different
all
as
the-
micro.
that's
That's a
another
macro
bullet,
to me.
yeah.
That's why, yeah.
That's a both. Another bullet.
Because I'm
and also
agreeing with you.
saying, because one group of people say, yes, we might like those things. And then there's the city residents who go, what if we don't want you to have those things?
Right.
So that's why the narrative has to be presented so that it doesn't become coming in, kind of lead the discussion, give everyone a chance to think bigger than
Yeah,
I want it and maybe you shouldn't have it.
I agree. Yeah.
Well, because a lot of residents might show up and say, we don't want this, and then if we decide we want it anyway, we're, going to be accused of not listening to the information that we solicited. So I think we have to be prepared to
Well, I mean,
listen to the feedback. If we're
Right.
gonna invite that information, then we have to be prepared to change, to not have a predetermined idea of where
Right,
we want it to
exactly.
go.
And also, making certain that we're reaching people in a variety of ways. Maybe not everybody can attend a 2-hour workshop, but they can complete a Survey Monkey.
Sure.
Or, have something
Yeah.
available on our website or our Facebook page, whatever. So we're getting more input than not.
And we can also record the workshop as well, so that people that can attend can at least hear some of the discussions.
Right.
And then have that Survey Monkey
Like a
open for a
delayed-
long period of time
Mhm.
to where they can provide feedback as well.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So are we looking at this list of the engagement methods analysis? Is that what you want us to do then?
Alternatively, if one of you guys wanted to step up to lead on behalf of the rest of the council to bring back something, program or potentially start implementing a program.
Don't stare at me.
Feeling really guilty over there, Robert.
I just
Feeling
see what you
pressure?
say, yeah.
And so this is what the planning commission is doing, but it's not necessarily what we're deciding whether or not, what of these we would like
Right.
to
And so
implement.
where the planning commission is going with this is that they'll have this adopted as a framework and new things can be added to this matrix. But the intent would be that when they undertake a topic, they're putting some thought into each one of these saying, we could have a high impact with a public workshop on this. It's going to cost a lot of resources. Can we have the same impact using something that
Several others.
requires less resources? So
Oh, this is great. This is a really good tool that they came up with.
yeah, it was a productive set of meetings with members of the public that served in that subcommittee.
Yeah, I hope to attend one of those, but I couldn't.
They put a lot of work into that too.
Yeah.
They spent a lot of time discussing that. They did a really
Yeah.
good job.
And so since workshop is one of the things that we're discussing, is there a day of the week that is off for council to attend? I will be an evening workshop.
Does it need to be a workshop, or can it be number 4? Can it be our normal council meeting with the time for that to happen?
You control the agenda for that meeting, that's great, put that one item on there.
Well.
I mean, those in
Too
our
big.
typical
You're saying
house.
it's too big.
Well, again, I
yeah.
think that what I just heard from Scott, how he described it,
Yeah.
that made it macro and then
Okay.
adds to the meaty concept.
All right.
So I see it as an hour and a half of hopefully good discussion.
Then it needs to be a workshop.
Or,
But I'm not
or the
saying if
town
we
hall. The town hall is pretty, oh, okay, no, sorry, I just looked at the notes on that.
And what's the difference between a public workshop and a listening session?
And a town hall. So there are differences.
Yeah, town hall.
So a listening session would be something where you are assuming that the people who will be speaking have knowledge about the topic and you're trying to learn what their knowledge is. You're just listening. There's not debate. There's not crosstalk.
No
Yeah,
education.
so this wouldn't.
The town
That
hall
would
is
apply, yeah.
more interactive
Okay.
in the discussions. Public workshops are something that might be facilitated with specific exercises to elicit specific types of input.
So maybe it is a
Sounds like a
town
town
hall.
hall, yeah.
then. Yeah.
Town hall with the Survey Monkey components.
Mhm.
But if we do a town hall, I'm not listening because you didn't call it a listening session, just so we're clear.
Well.
Because I'm staying within the parameters of the box that Ben drew.
Black and white.
It's true, it just says
Such an
crosstalk,
advantage.
it doesn't say active listening. You might need to update this document.
The planning commission should
Escape
have
the
had Amy review it. I like the idea of a town hall. Okay.
So you want us to look at dates? Or no?
Yeah. Are you ready to look at dates?
How soon does this, how soon do we need to move forward on this topic? I mean,
No
is
constraints.
it? okay.
Nothing hasn't happened.
Nothing's
in
pressing right
25
now.
years,
Yeah.
So.
But we don't have
Are there
a customer
applicants who are-
pressing it.
No.
Okay,
Are there properties that are kind of waiting? No?
I haven't heard.
okay.
So
Yeah,
not in the
the-
I mean,
summer?
could we push this to the fall then, maybe?
That's what
Yeah.
Yeah, because the sun is shining.
I don't want to be.
Well, no,
bad.
but if we have an expectation of when it's gonna take place, then it's easier for us to plan for it.
Right, exactly. Let's just say the fall then. When is our diversity, the inclusion training?
September 7th.
So maybe October or November, sometime before the holidays.
Okay.
Like between that and Thanksgiving.
Okay.
What was the date that you just?
October, November.
Yeah,
October, let's do October.
between the inclusion training and the holidays, Thanksgiving.
October would be pretty good.
Okay. Is that better?
That's better. That's good.
Earlier in the month is better. So that we have more time for council to figure out.
Yeah, we kind of, because we have a meeting on the 21st of
Yeah.
October, so we did it.
Yeah.
Before
it'd
that.
be
The week of
useful
the
to have it
4th,
before
so we
that.
got a little
It's like
more time.
so the first week in October.
Yeah.
Okay,
First full week.
the first full week.
Yeah, 4th through the 8th.
I'm out on the 7th.
Okay. So shoot for Tuesday, October 5th.
That's good.
As we
How about
go
Wednesday?
through,
Can we do Wednesday instead of Tuesday?
I can't do Wednesday night. That particular one.
Can we do Monday
We
night?
could do Monday night. I mean, it only, it
Fourth?
depends on what football game's on.
Yeah.
You can also
Can't know
record it,
that yet.
right?
You're talking soccer and not NFL, right?
Sure.
No,
And we'll do
Put in
6
special council
PM.
town hall
On the
Yeah.
4th.
Mhm.
regarding water.
We could just say service extension outside city limits.
I was gonna say water.
City vitality discussion.
At 6 o'clock, is that a good time or is that?
Is
that
that
time?
dinner time?
That's what I'm wondering. That
Okay,
time
I
work
think
for
it's
people?
6:30.
6:30.
Gives people time to get home and.
Yeah,
6:30 or
Right.
7?
Well, how long
Seven
is it
should be
gonna be
late.
though? I don't think people.
I'm
so
figuring an hour.
I would say 6:30 to 8.
Okay.
6:30.
6:30. 6:30 to 7.
Okay. Got it.
All right, there's some progress.
can I,
What? One more?
so that's great. We've got that part scheduled. That'll be the culmination of several other efforts within this draft framework that's been delivered. So defining the problem, informing, educating, informing the public of what this problem means, so that they can come to that meeting with some background knowledge like you all have. So I'm hoping to suggesting that one of the best ways to do this might be to have one of you serve as liaison for the rest of the council on this topic and work with staff to make sure that we're getting the message that you believe the full council wants.
I'll do that, unless anybody else wants to.
Go for it. But my suggestion would be something like what you have in this memo here, where it
Yeah.
says what is being discussed, why discuss this.
Mhm.
That's like the main thing, right?
I think I have a problem with the word problem. This is not a problem. This is
No,
an
it's
issue
not.
that we're.
It's an
Opportunity.
issue.
It's
Yeah,
an
it's an issue.
opportunity.
Why are we even discussing the issue?
Opportunity.
Opportunity to excel.
As we go through this too, just at the meta level, I'm hoping you guys can explore how this is working. I know the planning commission embraced this subcommittee which is a response to people's frustrations with how city government is working right now.
Yeah.
And so they're embracing the suggestions. They're going to work it into their bylaws very likely. And so I know many of the people who helped to initiate that subcommittee and participate on that subcommittee were saying, yeah, this is all great, talking to the planning commission, but we really want to talk to the city council about changing the way that the city council does this too. So I expect you all to hear from those people. But this gives us a chance to do sort of a dry run with that. And so take a look at it, analyze how this is working for you, for other policies.
Cool, thanks. Very good discussion, thank you. All right, as requested, we're going to talk about parking. So Liana has compiled a very lengthy list of
There were so many, so looking at our
Examples.
code,
Yeah, thank
and then I
you.
saw other codes, I'm like, oh gosh, I don't even know where to start now.
Okay,
So,
I'll let you do your opening remarks, but I have thoughts.
so a couple of different ways we could go about it is open up the restrictions and have a snow emergency clause. But again, that leaves it open to the potential encampments. And so that's why I also threw that one in there from Washougal. And then there's the very robust, I think Leavenworth, did Leavenworth have the one with the dog? Like, you can break someone's window if there's a dog in it too.
Oh,
Or
right.
it's
Yes.
illegal to have a dog in your car from these months or something.
Right.
There was,
Or
I
another
mean,
one,
there was,
if it's between these temperatures, they can only be in the car for
right,
this
yes,
long.
yeah.
And it's like, it's only be that long, but
I
then
mean,
that feels like a really deep dive,
right.
because I've heard of people,
like.
So I wasn't, right, yeah,
I've heard
I
people
wasn't.
leaving their cars running with big signs, the air conditioning is running, don't break my windows.
I trust people not to steal my car. So we do. So,
Point of question, is our current ordinance only 2 pages long? And that's what I'm reading.
yes, that's why I'm
I
like,
like simplicity. Why do we gotta
Here's-
mess with it?
Leavenworth, you can't, you
Here's our
can't back
code.
out of your driveway into a major road.
well, and so that, but then also, we've had recent complaints with additional parking challenges, one of them being cars parked on lawns.
Lawns.
Just,
Okay.
so not on the driveway, but on the lawn.
Why are they
Is that
doing
up to
that?
us?
I got a
To
question
leave the
about that.
driveway
Public-
free?
If I own the property, why can't I park my car on my lawn if I want to?
There's multiple cars parked on the property, and then we don't have an ordinance relating to only two cars per
Jimmy
property.
Bob's,
So,
Like
you
it's a
can use
nuisance.
car lot.
well, but they're not a nuisance because they don't meet that definition. They all run.
Oh, but that's why
Right.
people are
Yes,
required.
yes,
'cause they
yes, it's a
see it as
nuisance. Yes, they see it as a
as a black eye on the
Yes,
property.
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. Right. And so that's why I also mentioned, do we want to prohibit that? Just throwing it out there. And then another one was, I think large vehicles parked at the entrance to driveways, most specifically A and J
That's
blocking.
my
the view.
biggest
Yeah,
pet peeve
yeah.
right now.
And so I was gonna see about including that as well when we do some parking changes. The other thing is the intern will be on board remotely. Sorry.
You're stealing his thunder.
Sorry, stealing his thunder.
We got an intern, man.
And so I guess, but where I was segueing with that was how timely do you want these changes to be made? Because if we want them, next month, that's fine, but we'll have more data and more, a more informed report, because one of the things that was also mentioned was a permitting system. If we get funds for that, we don't necessarily have a methodology to
Well,
spend them.
enforcement has always been the biggest, because we have a sign right outside AJ, no large vehicles.
In park anyway.
Yeah,
But it's not in our ordinance.
So
Well, and I had a real challenge the other day trying to pull out of Russell. And there's a guy with his
such first world
truck
problem.
and his 15-foot tall,
fifth wheel.
70-foot long fifth wheel, parked there, and you can't see anybody coming from
On
the
a state
east
highway.
on a state highway, So they're The intern is gonna have some work to do.
What intern? I don't know what you're talking about.
Maybe totally off
Yes.
topic, but we do summer employments, half-time employments for landscaping and things. What if we did a parking enforcement in the summer months only? We hire somebody and that's their job, walk around, write tickets. I'm throwing that out there
Stevenson
now.
is serious about parking.
What's that?
Stevenson is serious
Well,
about
I mean,
parking.
they're in the summertime, obviously, like the longboat guys are in town right now, and it's just, there's a lot more traffic, and it'd be nice to have everybody kind of, because come December, you park anywhere you want.
Right. But there's definitely the busy.
If we looked at half a part-time employee and we put it out. obviously the person's
Leavenworth,
gonna get-
Leavenworth does it.
They have a part-time?
For seasonal parking?
Yep.
Well, that makes, I knew they did it in October, but I thought
Yeah,
that's
that's right in winter,
Yeah.
in the winter.
But you're
Pretty
talking
popular
about
winter, too.
people.
Yeah,
with
it is a real
meters.
popular winter.
We don't have that's a meter thing, right?
No,
No,
it would be a meter may, which is a
Well-
horrible word. With a person who would have traffic citation enforcement with a book and just simply writes by whatever ordinance is,
Like
right?
if you park for more than a
SMC,
certain number of
you
hours.
park, you've left your vehicle
You can mail your
overnight, or
$25 payment too.
Yeah, the classic, you're parked in two spots,
Mm-hmm.
or you're encroaching a walkway.
Is it really a problem?
You guys, I never noticed it.
Right.
What's that?
Well, then we certainly want more data. Well, I don't know. I can't speak for everybody. I'm
Who's the little-
interested
Who's
in
the
more
liquor
data.
person that we had sitting out there counting cards one summer?
We did.
My big takeaway that I got from these very fine examples that you provided, that there's a lot of detail.
Oh, yeah.
And for somebody's got to be responsible for, wait a minute, isn't it? Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is the thing that you're breaking this time. And who do I call?
Right.
Yeah, so the simpler, the better. Address our concerns and then find a way for enforcement. And then, of course, craft a very finely worded ordinance.
I think one of the challenges I saw with some of the wording around the snow emergencies was, publish it in your local radio station. Okay. Put it on your TV or your local TV station. Okay.
So the big thing about snow emergencies is
Your
don't park
weekly
on the street
newspaper.
because we want to plow.
Right.
So
Right.
people know that you stop burning on July 1st.
Right.
Whatever
Don't
we
park
come
when it's
up with,
snowing.
though, the sheriff's not gonna enforce it. They just
What
don't
does-
have that manpower. I
what
realize
does
we
the
can put it in there, and make a requirement, but it's not gonna happen. They just don't, they're not, so we're gonna have to find a way to enforce it. So the question is, do we? I mean, you gotta hire.
Well, if somebody's parked and we need to get our snowplow there and we tow their car.
If we gotta get our snowplow there, isn't it a county snowplow?
Just drop the blade.
We
There is
have-
no
we have-
enforcement.
We plow also, don't we?
I believe we plow 14 because of the decorative
Oh, we do?
sidewalks,
Okay.
yeah.
Parking
this-
enforcement person wouldn't have authority to start a tow. That would have to be the sheriff, but they could call. the sheriff.
Yeah. Which then we got a contract with Reed's Towing and have them, and we gotta pay them for the storage fees. and
I
we
was,
gotta
I
reimburse
was interested in, like, we had a citizen who came here and said, I want to be able to park in front of my house.
them. Okay,
And I can't park in front of my house because there's no overnight parking.
in front of their house?
Yes.
It was Tanis, right?
Okay.
Yeah. So that's the reason. I'm trying to make it not more restrictive, less restrictive.
I
A
agree with the
particular
2 pages. I
citizen.
was happy with 2 pages.
Yeah.
But there are certain things, like, it would be cool if we had some bite.
Okay.
So how
And
do we do
how
that?
how do we allow this woman to park in front of her house? Like, doesn't seem that hard.
Well, it seems like an SMC that we have to adjust. It's gonna be subsection 72 of the.
What
Do
is she
you
doing
sell,
now?
do you sell
What is
a
she doing
permit?
now? Does she have a driveway or does she have an
That's what we
alley?
were talking about.
Neighborhood parking permits is normally. how it's
Yeah. Yeah. She's parking in an area that is shared with a neighbor.
And we could also just do a no fee permit as well
Right.
for residents.
If you live within the zone.
And that would
That
then,
says if it snows,
right,
you know,
Yes.
like has
Right.
the thing on
Right.
it.
the challenge comes is what are the criteria that you want us to hand those out to? I mean, do you want us to hand it out to the people that have adequate parking? Or, and what I'm thinking of is above the Pioneer Building,
Yeah.
they have apartments there.
Right.
That's also the post office.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So,
And now the new hotel. so
Right,
more
right.
parking.
right,
Good
So-
question.
In Hermosa Beach, they have 2-hour parking and they're very, very quick with the tickets on that. But every resident gets 2 permits that supersedes the 2-hour parking limit. But when I'd go to visit my brother and I was the third car, no kidding, it was a 10, like he would have to follow me out to where I parked my car out very far away. to come back. So that's one option. You automatically get this. Here's your two. Done.
How does North Bonneville do it? How do
They
they
got a
handle
parking
it?
problem?
In the road.
Well, of course, they've got a lot of parking lots too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like we're tossing it to the intern. But
I lived in Northwest Portland. We did have just, the stickers that hung from your river mirror. for
Right, you have to
residents
have it if
only,
you're a resident.
And it was free.
one
Yes,
per,
well, you
one
pay-
one
actually
per
pay for
house.
the
One
permit.
permit per vehicle.
So you had one vehicle per residence that was allowed to park on the street?
What if
got
I
'em.
have 4
No, it was
cars?
if there were two, no, it was.
Were you living in
It
Northwest
would be per
Portland?
resident then, so it'd be per resident of wherever you were. So if there were 2 people living there, you got 2 permits.
Hmm.
There were 4 people living there and you got 4 permits. But you couldn't have one person with 4 cars.
But what issue are we trying to address? It's one thing trying to solve the parking problem. In this case, we're trying to make sure that people who live there can park there. I think.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that should be an easy exception to whatever.
Yeah, because I don't think there are many, right? I don't think there
Well,
are.
We
Leanna
saying Monica
brings up a
can't
good
park in front of
point.
her house for 24 hours because she's on First Street? I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of silly.
Between 2 and
Between
5.
certain hours,
yeah.
correct.
Well, I know, that's what I'm saying. So it should be that
Between
if
2
you're a
and 6 or
resident,
something.
here's your parking permit, and just hang in the window and nobody can ticket you, but we're
Well,
not
but-
ticketing anyway.
But what about Liana's point? What happens at the post office with those apartments above?
Do you
me,
want to
that's-
have
that's-
designated spots to where you
I
can do it on First and Second, you can't do it on Russell?
Yes.
think you're getting really stinky. You
Well, because that's.
got a multi-tenant building then. Maybe you just don't get permits to multi-tenant building. owners.
Vegetation is getting very tall.
See what I'm saying? When this thing's getting bigger and bigger.
I
by the
know.
minute.
I
We're in the
know.
weeds.
But then what about the people? Yeah.
We
Yeah,
are.
the weeds.
well,
Live
no,
at
we're-
Avery
we're
and
down
park
on
in
the
front and
rough
then
side.
taking
Or
below
like
the
Joe
soil
said,
line.
Now all of a sudden he's got 15 people staying there for the weekend and he's got, all of the
Ben,
cars are parked.
So-
Have you heard enough of our concerns? this evening?
So the direction that I'm
Wasted
hearing.
your time.
Robin,
Right.
well, Liana, have you heard enough of our concerns? this evening?
Right, so what I'm hearing is we can get more information on specific options, not the lengthy parking.
Leavenworth version.
Yeah.
Yes, and not addressing residential parking on residential lawns. And we'll go from there.
We're, just out of curiosity, what have we got available that we might look at for a public parking area?
A lot, a parking lot.
Well, I'm thinking like, for example,
Well, what if
John,
that?
John Mobley,
right.
John Mobley owns that one piece there on the east side or the west side of.
For his
So in
employees.
the downtown plan, there is identified some potential public parking spots for the city to, it would be basically property that we would have to purchase and develop as a public parking lot.
Can we use our
There's also a
funds?
section,
I was just thinking.
no,
that.
because it's street infrastructure.
I'm just pulling it,
Right.
just.
I
Trying to think
know.
We've
outside the
gone from
box.
screwing the rate owners, the rate payers who can't pay their money to, hey, we got public parking
I know,
for a lot of
right,
people who
right.
don't even live here.
Right,
That's
right.
awesome. We just scored for the city.
But
Nope.
it brings money into the business.
But we can do tax increment financing for a redevelopment to encourage, economic growth, which would then be refunded. There is possibility of that.
I'm just.
But we've talked to
But that's
Clifton
part of-
about buying his lot many times. We've talked, Mobley wanted to put a car wash on that spot that he has for the longest
He's
time. Until I realized it
good
didn't
enough on
pencil
the car
out.
wash, it doesn't pencil.
I know, that's until I realized it didn't
Well,
pencil out.
He can tell you his latest greatest.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm just throw that out
Right.
as a discussion.
And that will be
We
a
always
project
get-
for the intern as
Well,
well.
the traffic flow, we always get the comeback, it's like, well, if you can't park right there where I'm driving on First or Second Street, I'm heading on through, I'm going to Benjamin. It's like, they just like,
Like have at
we've
it.
heard that, and that's what the one-way street thing is always brought up. If I'm going one way and I don't see it, I'm not stopping, we've had that discussion.
And the county buildings are closed on the weekends.
Right.
So
Yeah,
there's a
so it
nice,
frees up.
lovely, large parking lot, but it's
Right.
up a hill.
Right, it's a block away.
Yeah, it's a block away, yeah.
I lived in Southern
There are no
California
signs to
for
it,
a
I know.
long time. Parking in front of your destination is a pipe dream.
Oh, yeah.
It's like over dinner. Do you know that I parked right in front of the pub today?
Yeah.
Shut up.
Well,
I'm telling you.
Even Portland, I mean.
No.
Right.
It so it just.
You go straight there and then do the, and then, oh,
Right.
maybe, nope, there we go again.
Mhm.
So is the
Okay.
idea the intern's gonna take a few of these statutes, cobble them down
What
to something that
intern?
we're.
So we have an intern coming, he's going into his second year grad, the second year of his grad program in public policy at the Evans School at UW.
Wow. Does he live there? Does he
Yay.
live up down here? or what?
UW was entirely remote last
Oh.
year, so he remained in Kansas City with family
Okay.
and did remote learning. And he will be moving hopefully to Stevenson if he can find a place to live on his way to moving to Seattle for his second year program.
Send it to me.
Okay. Okay.
Are you verboing again? Airbnb? No, the house.
Well, I am, but as it happens, I have no children at home for the summer, so I just have some extra space.
Okay, I will. The idea is not that he's going to be able to deliver you a fully baked solution to all your parking
Right.
problems, but he will provide some of the baseline data that we need to talk about a public lot, or we need to talk about whether there's a parking problem. Industry standard for that is the 85% rule. If you're driving down a corridor and 85% of the spaces are filled with a vehicle, you feel nervous that you might not get a spot. If it's less than 85%, you're confident that you can park where you want to park. So we will kind of explore that 85% rule and how it applies to Stevenson and the expectations that we have versus a place like Southeast Portland has. But we'll try to collect that data to see how often and on what block frontages that 85% or 50% or whatever standard is met. We're going to use that information to feed into, well, we're still right sizing exactly what he can do because we're a month into the summer. And so we won't be able to accomplish everything that we thought we were going to accomplish. It took us longer to get somebody to come than we thought. But ideally, he'll be performing a gap analysis for existing block frontages where an improvement could happen, and that opens up an opportunity for a new spot. So an example is in front of the courthouse, between the courthouse and the courthouse annex. The driveway comes out and for 20-25 feet, it's painted yellow to allow you to see down the road as you go on. And then for another 10 or 15 feet, it's painted yellow because there's a fire hydrant. So can we fill that gap by moving the fire hydrant closer to the intersection and open up a space on that street? So he'll identify opportunities like that. We'll take that gap analysis, feed it to the traffic consultants. They'll estimate the cost to do that. Now we're starting to give you guys the tools to build a program for considering what it's going to take to fill these gaps, how you might do that. An example might be through fees in lieu of on-site parking, where a new building comes in. They might be required to have 12 on-site parking spaces. If they pay the fee in lieu of providing those 12 spaces in an amount that's going to cover opening up 12 spaces on the street or in a public lot, now we've got a program.
Mitigation banks, here we go.
Yeah, exactly. So we're not there yet in order to be able to consider a public lot or how we might pay for it or anything. Right. This is giving us some tools to better consider that.
When are you anticipating his?
Just talked to him today about some of that, so we're going to start remotely as soon as next week if all the paperwork and hire and everything comes in. He's got some things to do with the school to get the stipend that they're offering to come to a rural place. Remotely onboarding him, getting him up to speed with what's been done in the past, how this is going to be or can be used to have future discussions. And then ideally he's here and we're working together enough so he can give the baseline presentation at the Planning Commission's August meeting.
Oh, cool.
This is what we're doing. This is where we're at so far. These are examples of what's going to occur. The other main deliverable that we're hoping for is that he's able to organize an effort to count the usage of those spaces. So are we meeting that 85% threshold, or at what hours are we meeting that? So that's going to be a hell of a lift to find volunteers to walk around noting which spaces are filled and whether they're turning over a period of hours for ideally 2 days. We want to get an idea of summertime peak on a weekend, and then something like a Tuesday where we don't have as much traffic in the summertime. And that's a program that we can use for ongoing monitoring to organize those volunteers. So we're building that volunteer base. We're building their knowledge this year with the interns' help. And then we'll be able to tap some of those volunteers for future monitoring.
What area are you focusing on?
Downtown.
So does that include Vancouver down or?
The big downtown that I drew, and I'll work with Alex to see what's feasible, includes Vancouver. It includes going down Rock Creek Drive to the Reed Salon.
Right.
Okay, that far.
And over to the cabin.
Okay.
Whether it's feasible to get volunteers to cover that sort of an area or not, we're going to right size that, and whether we do outside areas every hour or every few hours, or the core areas every hour or every couple hours, we're going to figure that part out.
He's some power.
That's great. Congratulations on getting that.
Yeah, right.
It's exciting. It's definitely part of a program that's going to be a tool for a lot of future discussions.
I'll
So,
benefit.
So that topic, she was a nice young lady that we interned for us one summer, and it was a program. Though. Not a school, it was a.
She was through the same program.
Oh, it was? Oh, okay.
Kimberly Pearson.
Yep. She was awesome.
She was awesome. She finished grad school and went to work for the Puget Sound Regional Council on, I don't know exactly what his civil was, but
Good for her. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Okay. Next topic. Dude solutions.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, this sucks.
Yeah, I was really pissed. That's why I gave you the option
Yeah, I
to just
would
walk
be
away.
Yeah.
They were not forthcoming with all of the costs associated with implementation nor contracting. And the cost that apparently they gave me was for one system. And anyway, they don't have any scalability. So most of the discussions that they have or their product is geared towards larger cities like Gresham, or that have a different population base, and definitely a lot more infrastructure to more or less justify some of like $20,000 to do this for what treatment plant. Okay, well, yeah, because you have a large treatment plant. So that's where they worked with me as best they could. And so they have a couple of different options. And so one of the options is to have Withers Ravenel do the initial setup for only $7,000. And then they manage the tool on an ongoing basis. And so that's where it's then $85.50 for them to manage the tool on an annual basis. And in about 5 years, it's a push. Where the push being, well, we would pay the setup costs of $20,000 and basically pay roughly $6,000 an annual cost for the predictor tool.
Wow. What were other companies that we were considering?
So the other companies didn't have this predictor tool, and what the predictor tool does, I might be able to have. They gave me a
There was a
video.
predictor utility back there.
Oh, there was, where was it?
Up, right there. Up,
Thank
one
you.
more.
Yeah.
There you go.
So here's a video. I can play it.
I'm on comment on Luke right now. So, we went with these guys because they had
Is
a
that
great
the guy?
program. They're supposed to be there. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
So, and
Irritating.
yeah, to say the least. And their excuse was, well, they were bought or they were going through some sort of restructuring and they didn't have, their pricing was in flux. And again, we have a
They
different,
should honor,
project
they
manager,
should
oh.
be honoring the price that they put out.
well, and then, yeah, they have,
We don't have a
All sorts
contract.
of-
We didn't sign a
Depends what
contract.
the.
not,
scope
not
of
for
work,
this
yeah.
portion of it, yeah.
If it wasn't the scope of
It was
work.
just a
Right,
bid.
right.
How necessary is it for us to have something like this?
So we have to have something for our Department of Ecology contract,
Okay.
but that could be an Excel spreadsheet. But it will still have to have all of that data to be usable.
And how do you
So,
collect that data without the predictor?
well, the predictor isn't collecting the data.
No, you
Oh,
have
so
to
you're
still
collecting it,
collect
you're
it.
just
You still have
inputting
to
it
collect
in
the
his-
data.
Okay, so
They have more information to leverage on, and can run multiple scenarios on how we want to fund things, whereas with the Excel spreadsheet, it's more static.
It's more cumbersome.
It is more
Mhm.
cumbersome too.
They
Well,
also have
Staff time to work.
That last,
more access to data.
Right.
Right, their databases will have
Yeah.
life
Yes.
cycles and.
So do we know, so we've been doing it this way forever, and now we want to introduce a predictor tool. Do we know how much money that predictor tool would save in staff time to justify an expense?
It's not saving staff time. What it will help us do is to plan for replacement and to figure out what that dollar amount is, to plan for whatever level of service we want to have. It's nothing we've ever done before, which is why we're in the position we are now.
Most of these wait until it fails and then they
Yeah,
replace
right,
it.
Like us.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Have you discussed with the county their current program that they're using for all of their ER&R? Because we switched, right before I left, we were doing everything on Excel.
Mhm.
And they switched and they had a computer program and they put in all the assets into that, so that they could better model what they were gonna have to replace in 1 year or 5 years.
Mhm.
And we've started with vehicles, and I don't know if they went any further than that with it. But it really opened up some people's eyes about, you have to have an ER&R fund to be able to manage some of these costs down the road, so.
Well, and I know, Dude Solutions is used by multiple agencies up and down the gorge. I don't know who's using this tool though. Like I said, Gresham is, they're using the predictor tool.
So, I want to correct something about the water treatment plant and that it was a failure. I think the only reason it failed was because there was a collective neglect between the council and the city staff at that time, or over the last 20 years that weren't tracking it. So it doesn't mean we need somebody to tell us what to do. We just need to be more vigilant in our own work. Isn't that true?
I kind of disagree with the premise of the statement.
too.
but yeah, because there was, it's a piece of machinery that when it got built and constructed, we were given a permit of X, and then it was taken away from us. And that was not our doing. The Department of Quality, Ecology did that to us. And then so as the plant was then progressing, there was, no money. We could have had rates to replace that plant. We only got 400 houses that were spreading it over. So it was if we had had the rate structure in place from 1995, 92,
96 was the
96
upgrade
went
after
on.
I believe so.
we would have priced every citizen out day one. So that was the problem. We're dealing with a cash flow issue that we can't manage because of the idea, again, this predictor would have told us we need $17 million in the bank when this thing starts to fail. We could have
Well, no,
never funded.
but part of the predictor tool though is to model like, okay, well, are you gonna finance?
Right.
So,
It gives you more options on how to
Right,
play
right.
your end game.
Well, that to me just seems like common sense. Maybe I'm not getting what this tool does, but anytime you're in a business, whether it's a government or a personal business, you're always considering what the next 5, 10, 15 years brings into you in terms of cost for that business. So I guess I don't understand why we need that to tell us that.
As an example, and this isn't advocating for it, but if you have a tool like that that you're paying for, you have to maintain that.
Yeah.
As staff, you have to maintain that. You have to be using and presenting that information. And so one of the things that I saw happen was that things that were institutionalized based on staff at the time disappeared with staff changes. And so is this the tool, or is a tool capable of carrying through the city's best interest despite a staff change?
So that's what my original comment was about, is that there was a failure to take care of our infrastructure, I think, between city staff then and council then and over the years.
So
So
one
do we
of-
need to pay, $20-some thousand plus, 6,000 or 8,000 every year to make sure we do our jobs?
So there's a couple of, so this is just for the predictor tool. The asset essentials tool that we're using helps us to schedule and track costs for those maintenance items. So it makes sure that we plan out for replacing a pump or for doing the routine maintenance. And it also will let us know what costs were incurred because of the water leaks that we just did or the lights that we need to replace. And so the asset essentials program helps with kind of setting up what Ben was talking about as far as tracking that and planning it and thinking about the future to maintain. And then that asset essentials feeds into this predictor tool to not only tell you what parts you're replacing and what those parts cost, but also the hours, the runtime, and whether or not that part is still on that life cycle, or are you using it less and so it will
Right.
last longer and so
Right.
it will adjust as you go.
Right.
Whereas in an Excel spreadsheet, that's not happening.
A perfect example would be a patrol car. And when it's brand new, you're pretty confident that that patrol car is going to perform the way that deputy needs it to perform. But over the years, it starts degrading, and by the time you get up to 100,000 miles, you got worn ball joints, all kinds of different things. And so the ability for that patrol car to operate at a new level and a new expectation level that that deputy expects it to, that goes down. So then your risks go up because you're using a vehicle that isn't as capable as what it was when it was brand new. And so you start weighing the risk involved too. And that's why most patrol cars go out at 100,000 miles, is because then you start talking about metal fatigue and things like that. And if you're driving at high speeds, those kinds of things, all those issues come into play. It's the same thing with a sewer pipe. I mean, we've got some asbestos concrete water lines, that should have been replaced, but how long do those last? Well, they're brand new, they work great, but then you start getting ground shift and things like that, and you start adding the risk into that. And I'm sure that this predictor tool talks about or addresses the risk factors too when it has that, where you're at in the life cycle.
And so one thing that, in order to leverage this tool, we are still going to have to provide them with all of the information that we would put into an Excel spreadsheet. And so what we can do is we can start with that, and I can have some conversations with the city of Gresham. Granted, their level of use is a lot different than ours. But I can possibly see if I can talk with them and see how useful it is for them, but also $20,000 to their budget,
Right. it's
way different
nothing.
than ours. Right.
Well, aren't, you said
So-
there were some other agencies in the gorge that use this?
They're using Facility Dude, or Dude Solutions, but they're not, I don't know that they're using the Capital Predictor.
I would be interested to know
So North
to what
Bonneville.
level, what level they are using.
Right, so
these.
North Bonneville is using Asset Essentials, White Salmon is using the Asset Essentials, more or less, and then this White Salmon School District is also using it.
Okay, so can I just respond to all of that? First by saying, I understand what it does. So essentially you just mansplained it to me. What my question is do we need it? If we already know that this vehicle is going to depreciate in both value and risk factors and level of comfort, why do we need something to tell us that?
I think that part of it is having a dynamic tool that takes in all of those data points, so that instead of having to go through each one and go, oh, don't forget that, and don't forget that, and oh,
Right.
and don't forget that.
I
This is a tool
understand that, but this is a huge cost.
I also, that's why we're having this
Right.
discussion, but the part that I wish it wasn't so, obviously, wish it wasn't so much, but that last piece, it takes all those different departments and lays them over, and
Right.
that's what we've been working on for the
Right.
last 3 years, is the capital improvement plan.
Right.
It sucks when you react and change out a sewer pipe right after you pave the road.
Right.
And so,
Exactly.
so I think another thing that's kind of missing is, so the reason why we need to know all this financial data to determine is because it needs to go into what we set aside for the future to then sets our rates. Right now, we don't have any required set aside outside of what USDA told us to plan for a future plan or future upgrades. We have nothing. We don't even have a plan for it. And so that's what this capital, with this tool, whichever tool we use would help us determine is what that set aside would be. And that's what Department of Ecology is also looking for when they're looking for what is your asset management process and plan. That's
Right.
not what we had in the past, as I see it, was you have your SDCs and then those paid for your infrastructure, but you didn't have a plan for, I really am saving this for this project. And that's what this tool, whatever tool we choose to use, is for. It's, I need to make sure that I keep saving this money because I want to have that money 10, 20 years down the road when I have to replace that part.
I just don't understand it. I just don't, I mean, I understand what it does. I understand its purpose. I don't know why we need to pay an initial cost of $7,000 and an annual cost of $8,550 at the very minimum for us, for it to do what we already know we are supposed to be.
Right, and so that's my proposal, is to start with the Excel spreadsheet and go from there and see if I can get more information as far as why the tool is.
I mean, if we were rolling in the dough and we
Oh,
had
yeah,
access,
yeah,
that would
yeah.
be fantastic, a fantastic tool. But we're not.
Can we use ARP funding?
Right.
Could we ask,
Maybe, I don't know, probably not, no, because it's not.
Well, I'm just saying.
I know,
It's infrastructure maintenance.
I know,
Yeah, and it's water lines and sewer
we have to
lines.
ask the attorney.
yeah,
Yeah, sure. Why not?
right.
That was recorded, by the way.
Could we,
I don't know.
could we ask,
retiring.
could we ask other cities, maybe through MSRC or whatever, smaller cities that are our size, what tools they might be using? Are there competitors to Dude Solutions that,
Yeah, and so that was in the September memo, but again, it didn't have that predictor tool, which would help us determine what we should set aside.
right, I get it.
Right.
Do any of their competitors have that predictor tool?
I can look at that. And I believe USDA, or what is it, RCAC, has a tool for asset management. And there's also something in our rate tool for the wastewater rates that also kind of loosely does that life cycle cost as far as how much money you should set aside. So.
It seems unlikely to me that they're the only ones who do this particular thing.
Right.
I mean, it's asset life cycle management, right? Or something along those lines.
And if they've boggled their pricing already and we're not even
Oh,
a
I
customer
know,
yet,
I know,
you know, what kind of customer service are we gonna get beyond the contract?
exactly. We're too small for them, is what
Right.
it sounds like. I mean, I agree that we
Yeah, I
need to
will.
spend the money on this and it will eventually be money well spent, but perhaps not for this particular tool.
Okay.
You're up again.
Okay, so in talking about the wastewater project, exciting news is we have our loan with Department of Ecology has been funded. And we are going to move forward with procuring the equipment for it. So we don't have a contract, but these costs will be reimbursable. It includes the clause, and it's the same template that was used for their services for the design phase of the contract. And when we do get on contract in the next 3 or 4 months, all these costs will be reimbursable, and the amount for the engineering to bid for the equipment that we need to purchase ahead of the project, ahead of the construction phase, we can float, as well as there are different deliverables within the current bid template that we can also float until we get a contract to get payment.
And they manage all of the bidding process.
Yes, they manage all the bidding
You don't have
process.
to do any of that.
No, and this one also has it phased as well, because we have the UV disinfection as an option, because that was going to be, so technically there were 3 phases to the wastewater treatment plant, and the UV channel was phase 2 for $1 million. Depending on how everything shakes out with all the costs and everything, that still might be another phase 2. But initially we're saying that it's really not an option. We still need to have that redundancy for the UV ditch. But they will delay purchasing that material until we know whether or not we can afford it within the scope of this contract or the scope of the project. So that's why the UV channel is kind of a separate item on this. The other reason why I want to have this as a separate contract, and why this contract doesn't include the construction part as well, is we also have $2.5 million for the federal side of things, a direct appropriations ask. And if that money comes in,
Right.
I want to be able to say, okay, yay, we have that money and now we'll go on contract for the rest of it. Versus having this not be eligible. I'm okay with this not being eligible because we have so many other costs that will occur with the other phase of the project.
I'd move to approve the contract of Wallace Engineering for wastewater treatment plant upgrade project equipment bidding services in the amount not to exceed $40,654.
Second.
The first and the second, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, Walnut Park lease extension. So the contract for leasing Walnut Park ended the end of last year, actually October of last year. And so again, with everything going on, we all sort of forgot about it. And so this is the contract to extend due to COVID and just the recovery process and everything. In the original contract, it stated that it would go up by the CPI for an extension, but because of those reasons, I kept it the same $500. To his another sort of thing related to that is initially the city was asking only $200. And he came back and said, can we make it $500 to be a little bit more equitable with regards to market rates and everything for something along those lines. So, anyway.
Yes, yes, you may.
Right, yeah, so,
You want to give us more?
right. Yeah, and they did fulfill their obligations in the original contract to fix it up and make it look nice.
Have you heard any complaints? Or is it
Um,
all pretty rosy?
I've heard complaints from some other business owners that don't have access to
Yeah.
property like that.
But the Stevenson Streetery
Right,
solves
yeah.
that problem,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
And there are some tables outside. That was one of my concerns outside of the fence. So yeah, I'll make a motion to approve the addendum with Justin Gross doing business as the Big River Grill for leasing Walnut Park as presented.
Second.
First and a second, is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Justin really doesn't have a company? Does it in his own name? Gotta go by and talk to Justin.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is not a good,
No, that's
That's
not
not a
for a
good-
restaurant. That's
Yeah.
a bad
it's
idea.
a bad
And
idea.
it's skate park and an ice cream shop, good.
I've seen bigger River Grill.
Yeah.
As a,
DBA for his liquor license.
yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Just get you protection.
We got, somebody have
Put it on
Justin
your
call
list,
me.
Robert.
I'll take care of it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
So the test results for the runoff on Rock Creek Drive, I've got here prepared for you. The memo describes the results of that testing. Broadly, there's not a great concern about severe environmental contamination, things like heavy metals in the area. We tested, collected and sent 21 containers to the laboratory for testing. 12 of those containers were grab samples where we just grabbed a bottle and filled it with the water. 7 samples were composite samples where we took 1 sample per hour for a period of 4 hours, sent it to the lab at the end of the day. And then 2 were trip lengths that the lab sends to us. We just put the dates of testing happened and send them right back as control purpose. The report that is attached to this gives the results of the 655 different analytes that were a part of those 21 containers or reviewed in those 21 containers. The results showed total organic carbon, biochemical oxygen demand, total suspended solids, ammonia in water as nitrogen, and iron-related bacteria. Those were the hits. Those were the things that came back as positive. With the exception of the iron-related bacteria, most of those are what you would expect in a stream side or roadside ditch. So the interpretation of those results, and when I say we collected those samples, we were helped by Carly Lemon, who's engineering staff to the Underwood Conservation District, experienced in this. She does that for the Conservation District and was a great help to us in setting that up. I've got a summary of how we selected the different pollutants. We consulted with the Department of Ecology staff in several different programs there. The first was the non-point source pollution water quality person. So non-point source is where you can't point to a factory and saying that's where the pollution is coming, or you can't point to a landfill and say that that's where the pollution is coming. It's just ambient pollution from all of our vehicles, that sort of thing. We also talked to the point source contact for landfills. And that was really helpful in getting the list of what the Department of Ecology monitors capped landfills for. They don't monitor these landfills because they were capped before the regulations took effect. But they gave us the list and we tested for everything on that without results. So the operating hypothesis that we went into this with was there's a jarring orange color that is very likely iron-related bacteria. But is it iron-related bacteria that is coming from that landfill and has a bunch of pollutants associated with it? Let's test it. Let's see what that is. The county, who had been working on this issue before, pretty much stopped with the hypothesis that this is iron-related bacteria that's naturally occurring. So we brought some data to this to sort that out. Largely, the county's conclusions were supported by this data. The testing occurred when there wasn't any flow in the stream. So there's pictures in the packet that show the orange pool of water. It was a couple feet deep, 1.5 feet deep, that we were testing from. One of the people that originally brought this to the city as an issue doesn't accept the testing that we performed because there wasn't any flow. Another division of Department of Ecology in the lead up to this responded to that, saying that the opposite is, well, because there wasn't any flow, it gave time for the pollutants to evaporate and absorb. And so this member of the Department of Ecology said that the opposite is actually true, that pollutants will concentrate when there's not any flow and the water is evaporating. So I don't know. I'm not a water quality person at all. But putting the next step to you guys, have we done enough on this and you don't want to take any other action? Do you want to advocate for somebody else to conduct additional monitoring? Do you want to conduct additional monitoring for the city to conduct it?
Well, my gut feeling on this, and I've been following this pretty close. I've been watching all the emails that have been going back and forth between the city staff and the citizens. And I feel the city has more than adequately provided the information that was requested. I think we've gone far beyond what our requirements are as far as testing this water. This falls back, as far as I'm concerned, if it is a landfill issue, it falls back on the county. And I think the city of Stevenson shouldn't put any more money into this. And if anything, turn it over to the Department of Ecology. If they want to do some more testing on it, let them do their testing on the landfill portion. But as far as the city goes, I don't see where we have a reason to go any further especially based on the findings.
I agree, and I also think that, I think we did need to do due diligence. And we did. And we ponied up the cost for it.
Which we didn't have to do.
We did not have to do, and we did, but we did, and I am proud of the fact that we did attempt to resolve this. I think that if the citizen still has some concern, then perhaps that person needs to speak with either the county or the Department of Ecology and take it up there. I think we've satisfied what we intended to do.
I agree.
Where are we on our budget?
You gave a swag estimate or authorization of 1,000.
Yeah.
It was something like 1,200 just for the testing, not
Yeah.
including any staff
Yeah.
associated with.
Plus all the staff
other
time.
support
Right.
I
and
know,
stuff.
yeah.
And UCD.
And
was
using
gross.
resources, right?
Mhm.
And this comment from the Underwood Conservation District where they say, I recommend reaching out to your Department of Ecology contact, that you did that, right?
Yes, I didn't have to. So the Department of Ecology.
That was
came
part
and
of
said that this is part of it. So, or that this is generally seen.
So the only thing we haven't done is additional sampling during wet conditions.
Which sounds
But
like,
they're saying it just is not required.
It sounds like,
This
well, none of
would-
it's required.
Right, I'm sorry, that it wouldn't
be
alter.
worse.
That's what Department of Ecology said.
If anything, it's going to dilute it.
Concentrated.
Well, it's concentrated now.
Yeah.
It's concentrated now.
So if we did it with
With
flow,
water-
it'd be
with
diluted,
water
so
flow,
it'd
you're
be
gonna have
Make
it
it worse,
less of
make it less.
Yeah.
Do you have that in writing from the Department of Ecology?
It was, I would reach out to specifically the landfill people. It was somebody from a different division about.
With DEQ,
Yeah, but-
essentially.
Yeah, I would
I would agree then, I think we're done.
turn it over to the Department of Ecology and say, this is, and also give the contact information to the citizen so that he has a direct contact with the Department of Ecology so that he can work directly with them in regards to setting up. If he wants a monitoring well, he feels that needs to be done, he can do that through the Department of Ecology.
Did we forward this information on to the county just for their knowledge?
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's a job well done.
I think so too.
Thank you, Ben.
Thank you, Ben.
Job slowly done.
I know, but still,
It, it takes time.
thank you for stepping into it.
And,
Literally.
and again, not discounting the fact that the citizen had a concern. And it's a viable concern. And I'm glad he brought it forward to see if we could help out. We've provided the help, and I think we move on.
Anecdote, we had Public Works clear vegetation so we could access that pond. My wife walked past and took pictures and texted
Yeah.
me saying, oh my God, what's going on? So it's jarring
Mhm.
what's happening out there.
Mhm.
We've got some data to bring to it to say that that's not concerning, though it is jarring.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Jumping back real quick, he is registered. It's Bigger River Grill LLC, so we might want to change that agreement.
Yeah, the license should be with whoever the entity is. So if we're doing an amendment, we should probably amend the party as well.
But he's current and active as Bigger River Grill LLC.
Because Joe was a big river girl.
Mhm.
Does that
Okay.
require council to change that? Or is that?
And we just amend our vote or?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've had some discussion here about the, I mean, the council's willing to issue the license and that's been approved. So I think this administrative to make sure it's the right party. I don't think I'm concerned about that.
All right, so before we get into administrator and staff reports, I need a moment.
All right. Talk amongst yourself.
So this is now a
And I'll be
completed
right
project
behind
then.
Yeah. moves on.
Cross it off the list. Check.
Put on the board.
That board hasn't been updated since
I know.
COVID.
But this
Yeah.
living document is super awesome. Like, and I know it's on the website too, so I think people are looking, I hope people are looking at it.
Kidnapping. Whoa.
An
Staying
inventory,
in Canada.
marinas in Canada, Natchez and Hood River. Have any of you seen the Sickos videos?
What?
You have to go to YouTube
Yeah.
and go to Sickos,
How do you spell that?
Sickos. This is Nash's summer job.
All right.
He and 11 of his buddies are making a webisode series. They drop new ones every Wednesday and Sunday. Some of them feature Stevenson,
Wow.
and I think the second or the third one has them foil boarding behind the stern wheeler,
Wow.
and a bunch of stuff is in Hood River, of course. But Stevenson's featured in the
Nice.
origin story, which is the first one, and a couple of the other kind of cool.
Are they based out of?
Yes, he's living in the Sickos lair.
There you go.
He says it's a loft, but it's
It's
most
not.
definitely not a
You
loft.
know it's not, Marina's in Canada, she's home from Peru.
She's running a summer camp.
Good for her.
What did it take to get it across the border?
Yeah, she gets.
She had a work permit. And she had, despite being vaccinated like in January or something like,
Right.
ages and ages ago in Israel, she had to have a negative COVID test within 72 hours of crossing the border. And she had to quarantine for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
In
On
that's
top
good.
of all
Yeah.
that, in Canada.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God.
So it was a lot.
I know Alyssa Johnson's, Mike's mom is going back. She has to quarantine when she goes back.
Yeah. And they check on you.
Do they
come
really?
by. Yeah. Yeah.
It's awesome.
So
Either.
Is it a wellness check or is like, how's that ankle bracelet in? You're not leaving your
kind
house?
of, it's like making sure you're where you're supposed to be, like in your
Wow.
apartment or in your,
Okay.
house. Or whatever.
Jeez, that is-
Yeah, they're serious about it. So, but Nash, I keep meaning to send that Sickos thing to the
Yeah,
chamber.
I'll check that out.
Yeah, check it out. Check it out. Scott, Sickos on YouTube. Sickos. Check it out. It's Nash's gorge-based, like travelogue, crazy shenanigan, 20-something story.
On YouTube.
It's good. It's on
Yep.
YouTube. And Stevenson is in it. Stevenson is in the first one, and I think the second or third one. I can't remember which. Probably the third one. Thank you for asking.
I hadn't seen
How are your kids?
Oh, they showed, well, Aiden showed up with 6 buddies the other night. I'm like, what up?
I love that.
We're just rolling. I'm like, okay,
Come
how long
on
you guys
in.
here? That's
Come
good.
on in.
Yeah. And looking at his first solo flight in the helicopter.
Oh my gosh,
He's pretty stoked.
that's awesome. I'm glad he's found
Oh,
something
he's
so
having a great
passionate
time.
about. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's the same problem. And then their roommates have to move. The friend of Chelsea's wants to move back to Vance. So she wants to move back in the house. Yeah, good luck finding a
Okay.
place to rent.
Can I interrupt real quick? So I've added to this license agreement, an assignment provision that says licensee Justin Gross, DBA Big River Grill hereby assigns this license to Bigger River Grill LLC. Right?
Perfect. Yep.
Washington Limited Liability Company, and city consents to this assignment.
Perfect.
So that's just added to it.
You need a
So
motion or you're good?
unanimous consent.
We've approved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okie dokie. Administrator and staff
I'll send it
reports.
to you. Yeah.
So is there any more, Ben, after your,
I don't know.
Yeah, Shinnedeer, that came up tonight. Phase 1 is what has been constructed out there. That's 27 lots. Phase 4 was an 8-lot approval. They have an interim deadline this September, which if they don't meet, they give up the right to divide those 8. The current owner does not intend to meet those, that deadline. So those 8 lots likely won't happen, and the connection going to Fir and Spruce Street through that lot won't happen.
That won't happen?
It will not happen.
Selfishly speaking.
Selfishly speaking.
Phase
yeah.
2/3 will happen. They've gotten their construction drawings signed by the city. I don't know the status of their MOB or what their schedule is at this point, but the connection going up Lutheran Church Road, connecting at Pine Street and Terry Street will happen with this. My math is right, 84 minus 27 minus 8, that's 49 lots to be available in that area. And so they've met their interim deadline.
That's going to be a lot of traffic.
There's gonna be a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
Their next one, I don't remember if there's a deadline for September of this year related to that, or if it's September of next year, but they should meet that. That's
That's for phases 2 and 3.
Phase 2. Yeah. So that should be moving forward, Shinnedeer's project. First Street Overlook sidewalk projects, we met with WashDOT last week, 2 weeks ago. And so there's a path forward for construction on that while still considering some of the right-of-way issues. And so we're moving forward on that path in the design review. Likely the bids for this year would be too high, so that'll be pushed out. We will have the grant authority to push that out for that year. So interesting delay that happened with that, but we should be moving forward. We've issued.
Was that resolved to our satisfaction?
It's still in the process.
Thanks.
So
That's fine. Yeah.
more to come on that. This week's paper has an RFQ for consultants capable of assisting us with the Columbia realignment projects. We've got the integrated planning grant from the Department of Ecology to bring that corridor back into productive use. Again, just the basic pitch there is brownfields were once used and they've since gone into disuse, and so we want to get those back into productive use with some kind of development. And this grant helps do that. And the reason why I'm talking about productive use is because this grant really focuses on the reuse of those properties, analyzing what it's going to take to redevelop, creating pro forma for what is possible to redevelop in those corridors so that you can take that to a developer or investor and they have confidence that they can turn a profit. And so making known things that would otherwise be unknown about those brownfield issues. So we're at the contracting stage with Department of Ecology for the scope of work for that grant. With this division, they've had better experience when jurisdictions have the consultant on board helping them write that scope of work. So they've suggested that. So the request for qualifications right now is to assist us with writing the scope of work for the ecology grant. And if that's successful, rolling into implementing that scope of work after the grant is secured. So that's out there right now. Couple weeks publication, and we will hopefully review the consultants and have a contract ready for you at your August meeting. Since it's a week earlier, we might not, but that's the direction we're going there. Planning commissions work on residential zoning. They're also using the new template, and so they've got a subcommittee that's focusing on the issue statement. They characterize it as problem statement and developing a range of solutions to address that. So that subcommittee is due to meet over the course of the next 2 months, report back to the planning commission in September.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
Before we go to Carl, can I go back to 9A, the sheriff's report? And just request maybe Leanna an invitation to the sheriff's department that they attend next month's meeting to do their report.
Oh, sorry, that's one thing I forgot. Yeah.
Thank you.
Because I believe the contract requires us to meet semi-annually.
Mhm.
And so I can't remember if that was in June or July.
Yeah.
Okay, so for Public Works, sorry, it's still up. Most of the projects are still ongoing. I think First Street, Ben already mentioned, and I already talked about the Rock Creek Lift Station Interceptor project, which also includes the Rock Creek storm drain repair. Because the storm line has been jetted and is clear currently, we don't feel that there's, and we already know what the issue is, we don't feel that there's going to be the flooding issues on Rock Creek Drive this winter if we don't get that done this year. Because like I said, we've cleaned it out and we know where it's at. They're still working also on the final permitting for the in-water work or that will need to be done for that. So that would be where the final outfall meets Rock Creek. So I believe they're just waiting for the core permit on that one. But that work can only be done July through September. So it's a pretty tight timeline on when they can do that storm drain repair. They're working on doing some of the planning strip revitalizations, and that's more on the west side of Rock Creek Drive. Waiting to get the tree condition report on the tree preservation plan. And as far as the treatment plant upgrades go, like I said, we're getting ready to go out for the equipment bidding in August. Now that you have that contract for the engineers, they'll get going on that, and that will help with lead times on some of those longer items. One thing that Carl did not mention on this list is just the they've had a couple of water leaks, which happens with the drier weather because the ground hardens and then kind of causes pipes to shift. But as far as talking about the costs for outside residents being a little bit higher, one of the breaks was in the county. And so what happens, typically we do all the repairs to the roads, but when it's in the county has to do the repairs and then they send us a bill. So that's part of the reason why the costs are a little bit higher to do the work in the county, is because we have to pay someone else to do it. So, and so that, I believe, is it.
Kudos to their crew on the water break they had on Thursday. Got it done quickly. And did they shut the bridge down for the repair?
Yeah, he said he was pretty impressed with the
Yeah, how quick they got it
bridge.
done.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
Well, and the county they just come out and close the road and call it good. So yeah. Mhm.
Good. Good.
Yeah.
Kudos to Public Works as always.
Mhm. And if you have any questions or feedback, again, you can feel free to reach out to Carl as well. So I'll go on to my report then. Coming back from a week's vacation to an audit that's in full swing and preparing for a council meeting is very intense. So thank you for your patience with the packets. And with, I feel like today my mind is also just abuzz with everything. So
I
again,
appreciated getting the packet early. That was nice that you did that.
yeah, because I'm like, I don't know what, like, this is all I have right now. I'm sorry, you're gonna get it 2 days before. Well, and then my flight on Sunday was canceled, so Monday was fun. So, but with that, you got I emailed out the entrance conference letter this afternoon. So there is going to be no entrance meeting as they hope to wrap up the audit by the end of next week.
Did you get any feedback from her after my interview?
No.
Going through these audit things with them was hysterical. She'd ask me a question. I go, ma'am, I'm not just a council member, I'm a lawyer. And that question, you can't even come close for me answering. And she'd break it down. Okay, I can answer these questions now. So she was laughing, but at the same time, I was like, nope, not gonna get an answer out of me that way.
Yeah, yes. So like, yeah, do you know of any fraud? Well, anyway.
Yeah. I made her define a lot of things.
Yes, yeah. I did too. I'm like, can you clarify what you're asking for? Or, I mean, and even with the questions as far as what they're looking for too sometimes. Right. And so they'll have a final report sometime in August. And with that, we'll have an exit conference. So if more than 2 council members want to be involved, we can schedule it at a council meeting or schedule a special meeting. You can just let me know and we can go from there.
I've been through enough of them. I'll go with the paperwork.
Okay. And yeah, again, let me know if you have any questions on that entrance conference. It was funny. So in reading that document, it said, yeah, payroll if we have time. Well, this morning we got the payroll request for items. So obviously they have time. So they're doing everything on that list. The traffic study cameras are out. So if you drive around and notice some cameras in odd spots, it's for the traffic study. They do not record license plate numbers. They do not record, they're not face recognition or anything. They just record the traffic patterns. So, and I believe we posted something on Facebook as well to that extent.
How long will it take?
The cameras will be up in a location for a day.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're moved, so maybe a week or two. Yeah. And then the last one is the website. We have all of the microsites done, and so we're reviewing just the template more or less in between the audit and other projects. And I mean, so far, Scott, what do you think? Yeah.
That's great.
So that project slide deck will then be moved into a little bit more robust project tool within the website. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think that's
And you'll have another project to check off.
right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've done off the list. Mhm. So, yeah, I think that's all I have.
Fireworks emergency ban.
So that one, there hasn't been a meeting convened yet from the county. So the, Bob Hamlin will be the one heading that up, and again, wanting to include all the fire chiefs, and representatives from the city. If anyone from council wants to be on that, let me know and I can have. Otherwise, I was just gonna assume that contact,
Would that be daytime meetings though?
Probably.
probably.
I would be available for that.
Okay.
Did that come out of this year's,
Mhm.
I would say kerfuffle a little bit?
Mhm.
Yeah, great. So that's for next year.
Well,
It would miss next
it would miss next year.
It's gotta be a year in advance.
Yeah. Mhm. And the counties during their emergency meeting, the meeting that they talked about it, special meeting, it would have also been too late to enact next year. It would have had to wait 2 years anyway, because you have to enact it before June
For
27th
the
or June
anniversary
28th.
event.
Right,
so-
yeah,
And
and yeah.
then you have the 5-day.
Is that, it's different in
just-
Washington than in Oregon? Because Hood River put an emergency ban in place.
Yeah,
like,
Washington
immediately.
state law says that no more restrictive ordinance can go into effect less than 365 days. After.
But didn't they have one already?
That's
No,
how
it
North Bonneville
was,
did it. They already had it in place.
Yeah, I think North Bonneville, there's a lot of agencies that already had it in place, and they just never had to use it. Mhm.
That seems a little dangerous.
Yeah.
You know, to have to wait a year for
2
something.
years.
Yeah, 2 years, right?
In this case.
Yeah, in this
State
case, right,
law.
considering.
Can
the
we apply
fire-
for a waiver?
No. There's no exception. It's just
Wow.
it's very strict.
They might have to reconsider that as as climate change becomes more and more of a reality and a danger.
Well, a lot of jurisdictions have emergency provisions like, White Salmon does, Washougal does. They all implemented them this year. If you have them, most everybody used them.
Yeah, we didn't have that foresight.
Would an emergency declaration from
the
the county,
down
Yeah.
time so far.
the county entity,
Yeah.
Voted it down.
Just who
Um,
would we?
Has to be
Council.
specific to fireworks and that has to have a specific ordinance.
Hmm.
Just wasn't,
I mean, you can have a no burn ban, for example, open burning. But the state has preempted fireworks. It's very clear in the statute that it's state preemption for
Wow.
fireworks. With a limited exception, the local jurisdictions can be more restrictive with that 365-day wait. So,
Okay.
that's the way it works.
I guess that protects the fireworks industry too, so. And all those people that purchase all that merchandise and then can't do anything with it.
That's
Yes.
terrible.
It's tough.
Not really.
All right, I would entertain a motion to approve the vouchers.
You have a signature?
Yep.
Motion to approve the vouchers is presented.
Second.
First and second, is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mayor and council reports. So Saturday at 1 o'clock, there will be a ribbon cutting event for the new skate shop, the ice cream shop, and the tattoo shop. So it was brought up at an SDA meeting this week that none of the businesses in the downtown core closed with COVID. And if you look at now what's going on, we've got 3 businesses that are going to have a ribbon cutting on Saturday at 1 o'clock. Welcome to come. I'll encourage you to come. But we've got the hotel getting ready to come online. And there was another one that was imminent. So we are coming out strong from something that has been devastating for other downtown downtown core. So it's something to be celebrated, and that's going to be the message on Saturday. And Justin and Courtney and Reggie both were like, oh, I don't know about all that. And they said, no, the city needs this, and you will get the big scissors and you will cut a big ribbon. So we were gonna, it's a very exciting once you kind of put those that kind of lens on it. So if nothing else, tell them congratulations for being able to open a business so quickly. And I don't know if you guys have seen.
But I hear it's amazing. Kids are loving it, and the
Delicious.
skate shop's just kick ass.
I can't.
What's that?
The ice cream's delicious.
That's what I hear, so I have not been.
Is it homemade or something, or why
It's
is
ice
it
cream.
And all ice cream.
Yummy.
is
That's right.
Yep, yep. My son really loved it. It was all over.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many pictures through the years I have of Liberty with a big blue tongue.
That's right.
Anybody else have anything for the greater good?
How's the longboarding folks doing? Everybody, any issues, complaints
What's that?
with the big longboards in town? Everybody's good?
The boats?
Yeah, the boats.
I think the fact that the boats aren't here is good for all the recreationalists.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. I'm a little concerned about the bridge and things that I'm hearing about the bridge and the weight limits. So I just want to make sure you guys are like
Which bridge? Bridge of the Gods or this bridge?
Bridge of the Gods.
And it's a lot of fun on a Saturday when they can't get you through the tolls and you sit on the bridge for 10 minutes to get across. You don't
Yeah.
worry about the weight limit. You're on there and the
Well,
big
that's like
line.
Thursdays
And you're
and
feeling it go
Saturdays.
like
You're
this.
just sitting there, you're stuck. You're like, oh, can I get a little closer to the concrete? No, I'm good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But they aren't staffed as well in there right now.
Aren't there supposed to be restrictions?
Well,
On a
they're
bridge
supposed to
with
start letting people
commercial
through.
trucks or something?
It
Well-
sounded to me like that's coming in the fall.
Oh, I thought it was already here. Okay.
What I heard or what the communication was that they haven't found anything as concerning as they did last time to require immediate restrictions. And they're continuing to do the analysis.
Well, now that I'm not working over in Hood River anymore, I hardly ever go over that bridge.
Well, just to like, so everybody's sort of up to speed and maybe you want to talk with other people about this, but those weight restrictions, if they go into place, that's a huge
Yeah.
impact
cutoff,
on
yes.
our economic development and
Mhm.
vitality.
Yes.
So this is not something to be taken lightly. We have a huge vested interest.
My understanding is it would actually stop the log trucks from coming over,
Yeah.
but the commercial or the personal vehicles would not be impacted.
Well, that's correct, but we get a lot more on large vehicles than logs. So
I was
there's
wondering what they did, yeah.
delivery to Skamania Lodge, delivery
Right.
to A and
Okay.
J, there's
And they have
increased,
LDB and.
increased cost, increased cost. for lots
Food
of
delivery for the-
businesses.
I looked at it
restaurants.
as we have fewer of the big trucks that are sneaking over from Oregon.
Right.
to-
That's the silver lining, but the downside is much greater than that.
Okay, I appreciate now that
Yeah,
dual problem.
yeah.
Okay.
So I don't
Well, that's
know,
another plug for us to be supporting local business then with these ARPA funds.
Oh, yeah.
and also to figure out how do we actually have a conversation with the Port of Cascade Locks
Right.
around like proper bridge maintenance
Right.
and regional transportation planning. So
Do
that
they
we're
not
not
have
held
those
hostage.
things?
We're not held hostage to a
Been to one
private,
of their board meetings?
it's a
No,
private
no,
bridge.
Crazy.
No,
It's a personal opinion. They have a completely different view of the world over there in that little group.
interesting. How many people are on the board?
There's five last time I went to a meeting. And we had a joint meeting with them, what, 5 years
Couple years
ago?
ago, yeah.
Tried to have some dialogue. It's our bridge, don't talk to us. It was kind of a wasted conversation, I felt.
And are those thoughts, are the same board members?
That I don't
You
know.
don't know if
I don't
they've
know who all
changed.
the same people are.
No,
I know
I
when
didn't
they
know
were
that.
doing their COVID restrictions, I did sit in on one of their Zoom board meetings. And it was, we don't care, you're gonna pay that toll. We're not coming across our bridge unless you pay that toll.
Interesting.
All right, guys. And it's too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so anyway, this is just a looming issue.
Yeah.
It's just so we're not, I mean, we are.
Yeah,
held hostage at
that
this
rumbling
point.
is already going on,
Yeah.
that this isn't just about your bridge, it's about our
Yeah.
town and everything over here. And also heard that that last bridge restriction wasn't just local, it was really felt in Yakima.
Oh, really?
Who,
And Senator King
oh, wow.
is in that area, and because Yakima and us squawking, that's how they got money to fix that bridge where they shouldn't have necessarily gotten it. And that's what
It came from our side of the river?
the pressure.
Do you have to be an Oregon resident to be a board member?
Yes.
Interesting.
Interesting.
But they got money from Washington.
That's that's the first time I heard that.
Well,
No,
we-
federal, I think it was, it was a
No,
federal.
federal. Okay.
Curtis is state, so.
But yes,
Curtis came in.
he's got some peeps. I would entertain. a
Motion to
adjourn.
join the meeting at 9:15.